I mean, this is, I think it's important. Well, that's where my brother went. Good school. I said, I know good this, but I know to be behind. Good state. All right, Doc. Good.
Hi everyone, this is Anne. I'm just making sure that my headphones and microphone are working. Could I get a sound check, please?
To the person on GoToMeeting, we can hear you. Give us just a minute. We haven't quite started yet. Speaking of starting, let's go ahead and get started. It's a little past 6:30, so we need to get caught up. We do have a quorum present. All members are present except James Graves. Reminder, as always, when you're making comments or speaking, please be sure your microphone is on for the record. We do need to adopt the agenda for tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. As always, before we start with our agenda, is there any general public comment not pertaining to what we're going to be talking about tonight? Any other public comment? Okay. Yes, ma'am, if you would. Please, if you would have a public comment, go to the microphone, please, and state your name and identify yourself, yes. This is not in reference to tonight's agenda, correct? Comments are not the same as questions, ma'am, but.
It's a question.
Okay.
Is that okay, or do you want me to sit down? I just wanted to know, test?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, case number SU 060225, and then it says second workshop SU 060225. Is that 2 different topics regarding that one issue?
It's 2 different meetings scheduled.
So
That's for
2 different
next.
topics?
No, we hold 2 workshops
2 workshops.
on a case. This is the first workshop on this particular case.
Okay.
There will be a second workshop in a month.
Oh, okay, got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Your name?
Yes.
My name, Donna Hodges-Gerhardt.
Any other public comment not related to tonight's agenda? Okay, thank you. We do need to look at the minutes for the June 4th, 2025 meeting. And I understand that we already have a slight thing that needs to be corrected. Jim, do you have some?
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. On page 3 of 5, at the top of the page, add just before the vote, to give you background, Mr. Elliott had questioned the ability of the applicant to deal with disabled children. And council, just before we took the vote, I would like to add this. Council stated that he would not, could not, and is not offering legal advice, but suggested that the applicant familiarize herself with the ADA. He asked if she had background in dealing with disabilities, and she indicated that she had been an RN.
Okay, thank you. Any other things that anybody's noticed that need to be corrected or added?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the minutes as submitted with the changes.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made that we approve the minutes as submitted with the correction or the addition. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, first case is case number SU-06-01-25, Polly of the Blue Ridge, special use permit. This is the first workshop on this case. Ann Gore has submitted an application on behalf of Rebecca Gore for a special use permit to operate a primitive campground in accordance with Madison County zoning ordinance, Article 15-A, on the parcel identified as Madison County Tax Map 56-7A. The subject parcel is 118.273 acres and is zoned A1. Alan, anything to add there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is our first workshop for this case. It was heard in PDRC. It's pretty simple. The applicant has a vintage camper. I do believe I have some pictures in here to share. Has a vintage camper on well over 100 acres out off of Shelby Road. And she would like to offer it as a, there we go, would like to offer it as a short-term rental. During PDRC, we heard comment from VDOT that it was such a small use that they did not have any feedback for us on this application. With the health department, they were non-committal on this one. I've had a conversation since then, but I do not yet have their written comments. They suggested for this one either tying the plumbing into the septic system of the nearby home, or for bathroom options out there, they could use a pit privy by permit. They were uncomfortable with the idea of the outhouse, but I'm waiting their written comments for clarification. Beyond that, this is simple like some other cases that we have seen in the recent past. Our applicant is with us online this evening.
Thank you. Does anyone have a question for Alan on this?
Yes, Mr. I don't know if it would be better for Alan or the applicant. Is this vehicle going to be permanently affixed to the land? And the question is whether or not it's going to be taxed as realty or personalty.
My understanding is that this is personal property. The applicant does use it for her personal use. She travels from time to time and takes it with her. It should be noted that this is a primitive campground application because this particular unit does not have a bathroom in it. So it's simply just a sink.
Great, thank you.
Any other question for Alan?
So basically, this should fall under the same thing that we just approved last month. Then.
It's really similar.
Yeah.
I mean, it should be the same thing. I mean, as far as
I would agree.
Well, Alan, if they're approved to use a porta potty, what's going to happen to the gray water if it has a sink?
I am waiting suggestions from the health department on how they would like that to be handled. It's a minimal use. I have asked the question, so by the time we get to second workshop, I'm anticipating having something to share on that matter.
Okay, any other question for Alan? All right, if not, we have the applicant online, is that correct? Ms. Gore, are you there?
Ms. Gore, if you're online.
I guess not, okay.
Ms. Gore, you're not muted on our end, so if you can unmute from your end, we'd like to hear from you. Or if not, you can call me and I'll patch you in.
Alan, while we're waiting, a quick question. Is there be any electricity to this?
I'm not 100% sure, and we should ask the applicant that.
I remember a couple of things that she said at the PDRC meeting that I might be able to move along with here.
Please.
She did say that she had a extension cord run from a nearby shop. And she has a water hose also run from the house water supply for providing water. The gray water situation is that she has a single, in the kitchenette area, a single, like a 10-gallon catch container that's not fixed. It's taken out and moved to dump the gray water. And that was where the VDH was not sure what to do with that.
So will the building department have to get involved with the extension cord?
I think we do have some comments from,
Yes, Mr. Wilkes did make some comments. I have his comments in your information packet. It's on page 10 of the PDF that's there. He simply asked for as a condition of the permit for Ms. Gore, that he perform a life safety inspection, and he cites the standard in which he would apply to that to ensure public safety prior to utilization as a short-term rental.
oh, while we're waiting, I did have one question, Alan. We have the name and address of neighbors. There's an immediate neighbor that's not on this list.
Okay.
Next door, right across their driveway from it.
All right, we will, I'll make a note. We'll double-check it.
Okay.
Let's say, and if you tell me
I would have to go
who
back
it
and
is
check
now
their
or
name.
later,
Yeah.
it's of no consequence. We have plenty of time to meet our state code requirement for notification.
It's the next property down closer to 29.
Very good.
All right, do we still not have anything? She can't hear us?
All right.
I can hear you guys.
Hi.
Sorry, I'm here. This is Ann.
Okay. All right, so again, if you would just identify yourself again, and we'll see if we have any questions or if you have any comments that you want to make at this point.
Sure. My name is Ann Gore, and I am applying for a special use permit to use my vintage camper as a short-term rental on my mother's property. And I think if Alan sent you guys the package that was submitted, you'll see my mother and myself in agreement, and I do think this was legit. And so, yes, I'm here to answer any questions that you guys have. And I'm sorry, I can't be there in person. I'm actually, I'm in the middle of the Atlantic conducting emergency management exercise. So I'm going to do my best to make sure I'm here and available for y'all's questions.
Okay, thank you. All right, any questions for Ms. Gore?
Ms. Gore, this is Mr. Whitman here. Question on the gray water, since it was pretty much the big topic of discussion, the PRDC. Have you had any conversations outside of that on solutions that you can update us on?
Sure, thanks for your question. I'm still waiting to hear back from scheduling my consent with the health department, but I am actively available and engaged and ready to welcome them to come and do a site survey if necessary, and to make sure that we are providing whatever solution is necessary to make this work. So I'm on standby, but I am firmly available and here to make sure that that situation or that issue is being handled appropriately. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Ms.
Yeah,
Gore?
Mrs. Gore, I'd like to ask you about your electricity. Instead of running just a regular extension cord, would you be opposed to getting a regular RV connect, disconnect that would go to your house or your next electrical supply? Probably going to to your electrical box?
Not at all. I've actually looked into that and tried to make sure that that would be something that would be acceptable also as kind of a little more permanent and safer solution. I am trying to kind of identify some potential restrictions in the area to maybe give me a quote to provide me some, since I am not an electrician and I look to the expert to give me that guidance, I'm just looking for that expertise to kind of give me the understanding of what I really need to do to make sure that we're doing it appropriately and a little more professionally.
Being an ex-RVer, I think you would probably be looking for a 30 amp disconnect, and you can ask any electrician for something like that.
I just wrote that down.
50 amp, but something smaller like yours, you could get away with a 30 amp, something like that.
Okay.
And that would allow you to disconnect if you take your trailer off the premises to do something and come back and just reconnect it.
Awesome. Thanks for that information.
Okay, any other questions for Ms. Gore tonight? All right, thank you, Ms. Gore. If there are no further questions for the applicant, as always, we have time for public comment. In view of the size of the crowd tonight, we'd like to have public comment as brief and concise as possible to allow everyone to have a chance to speak. Also, please, if other people have made the same comment that you plan, maybe just let that go and let their comment for both people. Also, a reminder, which we just saw happen, comments are not questions. Comments are statements that you make that the Board Planning Commission listens to and takes into consideration. And again, if you would please, anytime we have comments, try to keep them brief, within 3 minutes or so if you can. Any public comments on this case? Okay, thank you. If there are no further comments and no further questions, we'll move to the next case. This is case number SU-06-02-25, Madison Hills Events. Again, this is the first workshop on this case. Molly Wilshire has submitted an application for a special use permit for an event venue in accordance with Madison County Zoning Ordinance, Article 14-18. The proposed event venue will exist on 3 parcels, which are identified as Madison County Tax Map 40-43, 40-44, and 40-45. The total area of the 3 parcels is 186.476 acres. All 3 parcels are zoned A1. Alan, anything to add there, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So Ms. Wilshire has applied for an event venue. And in the staff report, you can see essentially what it is. But I would like to take just a moment. Our office has had an awful lot of feedback on this case. Some of it is based on things that are, and some of it is based on things that are not. So I want to take just a moment to talk about what the application is. This is for a winter event which will occur approximately 21 days annually in the evenings, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evenings. A spring event which will occur approximately 14 days annually, Saturday and Sunday during the daytime. A summer event which will occur approximately 6 days annually, Saturday and Sunday. There are no events that have been proposed during the weekdays, with the exception of the Friday evening events. A farmer's market is an ancillary use, and it's worth noting that a farmer's market is a by right activity in the district. Now, some of the things that the application is not, that our office has heard. The application is not for a commercial solar energy facility. The application is not for an amusement park like Busch Gardens or Disney. It is not a concert venue. It is not for 28 week-long events. It is not for activities or structures that are in a floodplain. And the applicant is not asking for Section 8 housing. So these are all the things that our office has heard, and I just want to clarify what the application is and what it is not. Ms. Wilshire has a presentation, and I think it would be appropriate, should the chairman choose to do so, to let her give her presentation. And then if you have ordinance questions for me, it would be a good time to entertain those.
I think that's a reasonable thing. All right, Ms. Wilshire, if you would like to begin.
Thanks so much. My name is Molly Wilshire, and I'm your neighbor at 2599 Oak Park Road. I just purchased the property in Madison last October, and after previously living in Gordonsville for about 10 years before then, and then in Northern Virginia, which, if you've ever been to Northern Virginia, you all want to get out of as soon as possible. So we found Gordonsville and subsequently Madison. I work at the farm in Gordonsville, and I was also working in a studio I have up closer to New York City in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and kind of traveling all over for what I do. I'm a Christmas elf, professionally, not in a strange sense. I do love Christmas, but I set up and do installation things. So ultimately, I'm a fabricator, which is just a professional way of saying that I make things for people. I weld, I work in resins, I do fiber, I've been a 30-year seamstress, I work in plastics, I have a background in everything from theater sets to medical devices. And I started life as a teacher, and I would make things for my students or my presentations, and then more of my teacher life later. But as I was saying, I purchased the property in October, and that's my busy season as a Christmas elf. If you've ever been to a mall or some kind of shopping center, they have all of their holiday display up long before we have our home display up. So I'm out running around October, November, and came to Madison more permanently in December and January to enjoy Madison and start all the cleanup around a property of such size. I then joined the EDC, which is the Economic Development Board, being someone who's very, very interested in how a community works and what makes them tick. And I had heard a lot of scuttlebutt of them raising taxes and how that wasn't good for everybody. And I said, okay, well, how does that economically play into everybody? Where does their money come from if it's not from the individual property holders? So they expressed a need for revenue, and I think every economic development committee does. They had said that they raised taxes, and as I was well aware, had recently just done a new land assessment. So with all of that, I had a better understanding of options for what to bring, and I had heard things like solar farms and data centers and warehouses and all of the practical things that when you have large swaths of land come to places like this. So I had joined the EDC to kind of pitch them, hey, I'm a Christmas display person, and I'd love to have my neighbors come. And that kind of spiraled in, well, if you want your neighbors to come, what about all the neighbors, all 14,000 people from Madison? I said, oh, I'd love to meet all 14,000 people of Madison. And they said, okay, let's look at this as a business model. I said, well, what's a business model that can come to a rural community, have very little pragmatic change impact on it, but also can monetarily help them and hopefully from outside funds to prevent things like land assessments and taxes coming up? Well, the two things that I work in and make things for are light shows, which is a temporary event that I've seen counties spend millions of taxpayer dollars on to have an event that brings and generates revenue, and then also vendor markets, farmers markets and handmade artisan things. So I make selfie spots and other cool things that they add to their locale, and again, they use taxpayer dollars to fund these artworks. So I said, okay, what would it take for a private person to be able to have a light show that's for Madison? We can include the farmers markets, and everyone I've met has a hidden talent that they had never told me about. Oh, I make jewelry. Oh, I make quilts. I do this. I said, okay, so if we did this in the winter when crops aren't, necessarily abundant, there are winter crops, but we have our bakers and our candle makers and all of that, as well as a light show. And then in the spring months when your regular farmers market would be abundant, have something that is that vendor market plus our farmers market, and make something really special. You could have local entertainers and things like that. So that's what I'm pitching to you here. So if you can take a gander at the Frost Fest here. So what is it? It's a walkthrough event. No cars driving through, those get too large, and people driving through properties, problems happen. Then we can bring in food vendors. There's lots of good food trucks around the area that we've talked to, and about 60 wineries that would all love to come and line up and make a little wine event for us. Juried artisan, if you're not familiar, basically it says that not just anybody can be in, but you have to actually hand make direct producer to consumer your wares. Things for kids as well, crafts to get them introduced to those artisan crafts, as well as games and things for entertainment, and some educational booths, not just about Madison and history, but everything from trees. If you could scroll, please, Alan. This is examples of some of the things that I've made for other municipalities and centers all over the country. If you could keep scrolling while I chat. Light tunnels, some of these are dancing and do have light shows. Some light shows use really bright strobes and uplighting because frankly, they're lazy and don't want to wrap trees. Wrapping trees takes a lot of time, but it's gorgeous, and you don't have that light flood. You have just the Christmas lights themselves being the little twinkling magic. There would be sound, Christmas music, holiday kind of theme sound. All sound would cut off as soon as the end time of the show, and we're working with sound engineers to try to mitigate anything that goes into any residential. If you can keep scrolling, this is part of our education plan. Like I said, I started life as a teacher. I taught deaf education, and it frankly broke me. Being a teacher is one of the hardest things in the world, and if you are doing that, bless you. But I really like to put education in everything I do. I teach, I've done adjunct professoring and things where I can teach skill-based classes, things like welding and resin and fiber arts, embroidery, and the list goes on. So for Madison Hills, education to me is in part of everything. Every interaction you have with another person has an opportunity to educate them in some fashion. So everything from fascinating history around the area, the Blue Ridge Mountains, and all the things people don't realize are in Madison County, like Old Rag and things like that, and individual guided tours where you can use little plaques to say, oh, here's the tree life, here's the wildlife, here's how things have developed over time. Special maps that really get people involved. So you have auditory learners, visual learners, and kinesthetic learners, meaning they have to touch it. So this is one of the touch it examples. So I make these really large storybooks, and you paint a scene from a character, and then you stand in as the scene, and you take this picture with the storybook, and the kids are inspired, and they see it years later and went, oh, I was the hero I needed all along. The educational plaques I mentioned briefly, those will be around for things if you have a blacksmith, for example. It would be explaining kind of where that came from, what era that's from, and how that's utilized even in the modern times today. Every farrier is really just a blacksmith with a full-time job. This is kind of an example of the plaques, nothing obtrusive, and again, it's all on the private property. They're small, but there's over 180 types of trees on the property. If you have people from California, that's fascinating. They don't have that. And I didn't realize how fascinating that was just within our country. So I brought a friend of her from California. He goes, I want a plaque for every kind of tree, and tell me how tall it grows and how big it is. And I said, okay, we can do that. Again, I've worked in education forever, and it just always comes back as a highlighted point for areas that, even if you have a ton of education, no one's ever gonna say no to more education, in my opinion. So blacksmithing, clay works, hand thrown pottery, weaving. We were lucky enough to get a bunch of weavers and loom workers who said, oh, we'd love to have a workshop during your open festival times. Because at festivals, all we really have to do, okay, we can shop and spend money, we can drink and do food, all of those are wonderful things, but ultimately to spend time and have a productive experience, having a 2 or 3 hour class within a full day of events could really be enlightening and maybe have someone discover something they never were good at before. The spring fair, my background comes again like from art. A Renaissance fair is the only thing I can equate it to, which is an open market vendor village with handmade items that also can incorporate this farmer's market, which would be very, very much historically in line with something that's Renaissance. But what my goal is here is more of a fantasy park, you know, event venue. If there's any pictures of the buildings, we'll come back to that. We'll come back. I have some pictures at the end of kind of the thematic buildings and the style. I'm happy to share it with anybody. I have some others and will. If you could scroll down. Oh, hold on.
I got you pulled up on a separate page here. We got it. Aha.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the aesthetic. It's basically a large front porch. So can you walk underneath a roof? Yes, there's no windows or doors except to close up at night, but it's a glorified shed with a lot of artistry inside of it there. So people can come, get out of rain, imminent weather, because it would be a rain or shine event. And those are simple floor plans to show how you could have your candles and displays. That shop would be two 20 by 20s, essentially two 20 by 20 tents with a platform over top of it so that they could display their wares up high while having two vendors who maybe have something that work together could be beside one another. So that's the idea of our fantasy market. It's much more fantastical and than historically accurate like a Renaissance festival would traditionally be. If we go back to our slide, yep, there we go. If we scroll down, I did some research in looking into all this. Again, this started as, can I have my neighbors over for a large party? And it turned into, let's start an event venue. And that's a really great idea. And sure, it's a really great idea. But tickets aren't taxed as a local municipality. They're actually tax exempt because they feel like bringing an event is enough to justify the revenue for an event. So we have actually adopted this membership, which allows us to do two things. One is traffic. I never want to impede traffic around here, ever. So a membership allows us to put a timestamp on different ticketed events. So if you come and you're coming to a light show, generally speaking, average, you're gonna spend 2 hours there and then you head out. So you can have your ticket for here are your 2 or 3 hours, and here's the next person that won't come in for 15 minutes later, allowing us to regulate traffic. The other advantageous thing about memberships is you get a reusable tote or something with your membership, whether that's a one-day membership, a 6-week membership, or your season long, but the local municipality then gets to tax that ticket sale, that membership sale, as opposed to a regular event venue, which you would lose the ticket sales on and have it around there. So it holds two different points to me. Yes, we're paying more tax when we wouldn't necessarily have to, but it does actually benefit Madison, which was the goal of this. If you could scroll. Thanks. I had mentioned again farmers markets in all seasons. I'm constantly amazed at how many producers there are in the area, no matter what the season, and really no matter what the product, whether it be produce and crops or things like art and jewelry, music, all of those things as well. So throughout the canopy, there would be these, like I was talking about, kind of vendor spaces. That is my booth at the Maryland Renaissance Festival. I have a leather company as well, and we do high-end fantasy art. So our leather has teeth and eyes, and we make dragons and sculpture out of leather. So this is there all year round and is, like you can see, open air. It's a big deck, and people can come and visit us and meet the artist. And I can't tell you how many kids are so inspired meeting our main artist there because they said, wow, I've never found something that I thought I could do this until I saw this. So it's a fun way, again, to promote education through that. Septic handling. We're not a commercial facility. I don't want to be a commercial facility. This is my home and my happy little private space. So porta potties would be how we would handle the 40 days of activity for that size of customer. Even if we wanted to do some kind of septic system, it's not practical and that volume in that time to do that. We would like to add septic systems eventually to the property, one more, so that workers could use a flushable toilet, or teachers, as opposed to them having to use porta potties all the time. EMS. I have, unfortunately, I've met EMS people many times in my life. They are wonderfully trained personnel who are there to help us, and I have listened to every consideration, past, present, and future, for them. One of which was a helipad on the property. I don't have a helicopter. I don't ride in helicopters. Never been on a helicopter. They make me very sick, like just the thought of it. But knowing that a helipad was only available at the fire station, I said, okay, so an 85-foot section is what they like to fly a helicopter in any condition, terrible weather, whatever. So we're proposing putting a helipad in the center area that we would keep open and could absolutely be for community space during the open times of the festival, but if ever need be, you would be able to land a helicopter there to have emergency access right away. Water needs in the vendor market aren't a ton for us. I mean, my home has water and there are wells on the property. We have had it perk tested to see if that would be a need that we could fulfill. The site perks for everything from septic to water in every place I can point. So as of right now, that's not an issue for us, and we're very thankful for that. And that's what I've got so far. At the bottom here are, again, those renderings for you. And if we scroll all the way down to the map, Alan. Thanks. You can see the helipad there, all the proposed parking. From the first preliminary meeting, we pulled everything back so it's more than 2 football fields away from any house, just in case of potential noise. And then those yellow lines indicate fencing that I would like to put around for the safety of any vendors if they have their products there and they want to leave them for the weekend. And then the middle section is my home that I would like to fence because of so many reasons. And then, and then there's my garden. And then the back section there with that circle, that's the helipad, and another barn area is that circle. And if you zoom out a little, there were a ton of roads all over that property that some were usable, some were overgrown. There's one main usable driveway, but the plan is to put in some other driveways to give access for everyone. On the proposed plan, we could fit all but 100 cars onto that driveway and not one would touch the parking. So it would get them off the road quickly and get them into their parking while still being on the property is the goal. I'm working with VDOT. They had in the preliminary review meeting, had suggested potentially needing a right-hand turn lane. I've been working with them and other cases where they have right turn lanes and they don't, and how that applies to us. So we're pushing back the entrance, that like big blue dot, yeah, that one. Pushing back the entrance so that we would have egress and ingress for any cars that are on the highway or the Oak Park Road there if we needed to get somebody by or a tractor's passing or all those normal things. The goal is in 10 years is to not change parking in any way, just to expand our little pretty houses into the canopy area and wrap some more trees and have a longer walk for your holiday light show and more vendor spots for your spring show. But more fencing is the only real difference between the two. Yes, more space in the woods. We still stay a football field away from any of our neighbors on the left-hand side there. And that's kind of what we want to do.
Very good.
Thank you. Well, let's address questions if you have them to the applicant.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
I got quite a few questions.
Okay, let's start.
You knew that, huh?
Yeah.
Number one, what kind of parking are you gonna have? Grass parking or gravel parking?
Grass parking. Being only open 40 days a year, it doesn't make sense for me to
Well,
gravel what I need to use.
You know how much rain we've had here in the last 2 weeks?
I do.
You know how many cars you gonna hire a record truck to just pull cars? Okay? I see you wanna do a helipad, but it's still at the same time, if you're bringing that many people in, you're gonna probably have to put more staff on our EMS, wouldn't you think?
I'd have to provide staff privately from other EMS workers, and I've talked to not only your EMS system, but other people that work for other counties and other volunteers, that they'd be able to do that as well, to not put as much strain on that. We would also provide little ATV kind of side-by-side stretcher cars and things that would be available for EMS use, obviously, but would have them on property, so they wouldn't be utilizing any of their resources there.
So let's talk about traffic. How many people do you, even though you're setting them up and selling them by the hour with the tickets, how many people do you anticipate say on a Saturday having in one day?
About 3,500.
So about how many cars?
835, about 840.
So 800 cars, and there's already 2 developments planned for Fishback Road that's gonna probably put another 400 there.
Those 400, go ahead, sir.
So you're looking at 1,200 cars.
My cars would be there for 50, again, those 40 days of operation, and the Fishback cars would put 400 cars there for 365 days. Yes, absolutely. But I'm not part of the development.
At some point in time, all those cars will be there.
I hope that most of them are coming to our event to support Madison and things of that nature. But if they were all tourists from out of town, yes, that would put more cars there. And if they all left at 5 p.m., that would put that many cars there. However, if any of the developments left at the same time, I think we would run into the same issue.
So far as sound, what time do you plan on cutting off music for your neighbors?
For winter, it would be 5 to 10 for It's a Light Show.
At 10 o'clock?
Yes. And again,
So-
music would be not constituted like a rock concert, but this is holiday music.
So if these people come here and say they come to one of your late events, where are these people gonna stay and eat? Culpeper?
Well, I hope not. There's over 400 Airbnbs and things in the area that they can utilize, glamping sites, things like that. I truly believe that those are available to them, and that's what they look for, is the local experience of everything.
That's good for now, Steve. I got some more for later.
Okay, thanks. Mike, you have?
Yeah. So if we needed to do this, would you be willing to proffer these particular 40 to 41 days out of the year for this? I mean, I don't know that we're gonna need to, but it might be that we might need to do that. Because some people might say that, well, you wanna do this at this point right now, but this could grow into a lot longer of an event later on.
It could, but I would be using, I would have to go back for a permit on that, and I would have to make
Okay.
everyone
So
aware.
for
But the
right
goal,
now, you're okay with this 41 days that you've
I
set
don't
out?
want any more.
Uh,
This is my house,
Sure,
and this
yeah, yeah,
started
yeah.
with, can I have neighbors over? And they went, no, you'd have to have this permit. Well, you'd have a 300-person permit. Well, what if you had it to the county? Well, what if you did it permanently? And that's where this came from. But I live here. I have no desire to, I mean, as much as I love everyone, I do not want to deal with them all the time. That's for all the wineries and things that are open.
Right. So you would be
300.
okay with that?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And you just answered the other question. You
Sure.
are planning on living on the premises?
I live there right now.
Okay, but you would probably stay there?
I hope so.
Okay. I mean, not that you have to.
Really depends on
I'm
how
just
this goes.
asking the
But no.
question. Yeah. And Pete asked you the question about your sound. How about your lights? You did kind of somewhat of address that.
They're
Your
Christmas lights.
are, I mean, it looks like to me you're gonna be far enough. I mean, I haven't seen the property yet. I don't know if you're up high or down low or
That,
whatever.
it's in a bowl, so topography-wise, everything that's outlined follows that line because it comes down into a bowl, and it's about a 30-foot difference from the standing point of the base of the bowl to where you're up with the rest of the level of like the other homes.
So Oak Park Road would be, you're setting
Higher
down lower
than.
than Oak Park Road?
I am.
Okay.
I d-
And is most of this land already cleared?
So
Or
there's no
no?
clearing that needs to be done. It's under canopy, and the goal is to, oh. Thank you. The only thing that's cleared are the things that are currently cleared, where the vehicles would sit, where there are a few little.
So
buil-
what's not cleared right now?
Only what is shown to be cleared is going to be cleared or will be cleared. We're not changing any trees. So like
Without-
that is cleared, that's a
Uh-huh.
little clear.
Uh-huh.
That's clear, and then the house and the garden and the helipad here, I'll point up
Okay,
here.
but that other
That's
to the
clear.
left, that
This is
festival grounds, phase 2
That's
is
all
cleared.
written, no.
Oh, that's what I was asking.
Oh, no. We want to keep all the trees. That's part of it.
Oh,
The shade
okay.
takes the temperature down
Okay.
about 20 degrees and keeps that breeze going through. So
Okay.
that's nature's AC. We're leaving all those
And
pretty
so I
boys.
guess these other trails that you were talking about, that used to be there, that's gonna be part of your walking around for
So-
the lights and stuff?
So that, you can pretty much walk underneath the canopy. We've taken down a lot of brush and all that sticker bush and things like that that's about to chest high. And it's just old growth oaks and sycamores and poplars through there, some of which are over 60 years old. So you have these really tall, majestic trees, some of which will wrap with lights, like I was mentioning. It's about every 4 inches you wrap up. But they don't produce light from, it's not like a sign light or a flag light or anything that would be more commercially available.
Is anything gonna get even close to Little Dark Run?
No.
Okay,
Or the pond.
okay.
I keep people away from water. They throw things in it, among other things.
A follow-up on a couple of things that Mike's mentioned. You specified that this is like a lower area in a bowl. And these are, basically, it's mature forest all the way around.
Yes.
How tall do you anticipate your Christmas light figures being?
Within what I found with ordinance, it says up to 48 feet, and I can't imagine I would go taller than that. So, I mean, that's pretty darn tall. That's 4 stories tall. So for most people, that level of grandeur is there. So we're not looking at any monstrous structures or anything.
Okay, so just mathematically, you're probably not going to be having a lot of light above the tree line.
Correct.
This is going to be contained within the tree, the foliage area.
Yes, and this swath over here, over there, that's predominantly pine forest. So that really nicely in hollies. So it's very, very covered even throughout the winter months, which makes it really magical because it smells good too. But.
Okay, because one of the big concerns is always potential light pollution.
Of
and
course.
light on other properties and stuff, and it sounds like it should not be a problem with this.
It shouldn't be a problem. If you did see any Christmas lights, again, it's for those 21 days of operation, and in a week you're open 15 hours. So not even a part-time job.
Another quick question while anybody else is making their questions up. Your description of the traffic, if I understood correctly, at least for the Frost Festival or whatever you're calling it, that's phased traffic, is that correct?
All traffic's phased traffic. So with the
So
memberships,
all of them, yeah.
all of it is phased traffic. It allows a better experience entirely for not only the vendors, but the customers as well. If you have an event that opens at a certain time, you have those people that will be there at that time, flood your gates, not be able to really enjoy the experience as they're like, oh, there's lines there, there's lines there. If you stagger it, which is actually what Disney has started to do too, if you stagger your entry fee, you have a better experience for that kind of a thing. But in referencing Disney, it's not like we're going to put, asphalt or anything like that, just to be clear, but to use all of the things that they have had in place now for traffic management and people management for years.
Okay, because I kind of heard the unspoken comments when you told how many cars you were expecting a
course.
day. That's not at one time.
And that's cars expected a day. That's how many I could physically put there.
Yeah.
What's expected? I have no idea. I have never done this before in Madison County. Again, I can tell you what other light shows do, but they have a whole different series of parameters put on them as well.
Yeah.
So.
But even in your wildest dreams, these are not going to be all at once.
Well, please no, please don't come all at once. No. And
Okay.
again, that's why the memberships and the staggering
Yes.
tickets, just to have more control over everything.
Yeah, that's an interesting approach, yes. Any other questions?
What about,
Oops, sorry.
Mr. Chairman, and actually, I have some questions on traffic, light, and noise, but I have a feeling that our public is going to ask several of those too, so I'm going to wait and have follow-ups potentially from what that is specifically discussed. The one thing I'd like a little clarification on is the 40 days for the holiday event. So is that right?
No, it's like 40 days that we will be open an entire 365.
Okay.
So it's
But-
21 proposed days because it's a 7-week show for holiday, and that would be Friday, Saturday, Sunday for 5, 5, and 5 hours.
Okay, so that's the breakdown to be a couple of different, the
Right,
four
right.
seasons I think we talked about earlier.
This will be something in the winter, something in the spring,
Okay.
and then a proposed 6-day festival for kids. That would be like a fantasy festival for kids.
I think I just wanted that
Sure.
clarified, probably for the audience, to know that it isn't just around Christmas. And then, as someone who's actually done this before with family, I've done a walking event over in Maryland. I have a pretty good grasp of it. I know it could be foreign to some of the folks. Do you have any examples of anything that's nearby that maybe someone could actually go and experience after this, or videos that you can maybe provide the public for reference for,
I will.
again, sound experience
Sure.
and what they can expect?
I'll send Alan, if that's the appropriate venue, some links to YouTube videos or something that's similar to what we're doing. Oh, right, Amory Gardens in Maryland.
Is that the
Yeah.
Calvert County one? That's the one
Yes,
I've
in
been
Calvert
to several
County.
times.
That's the
Yeah.
closest one that I can think of. Is in
Yeah.
Calvert County, and it's Anne Marie Gardens. It's in Maryland.
It's at a museum there that's.
Yeah. That's a close show. Many others are driving, I know of one in Greensboro, North Carolina, I do, but that's a far drive.
If I may interrupt,
Sure.
Ms. Wilshire, if you send me a list of references, I'm more than happy to post the link for the public to view.
I'll
We can
look
do
for
that.
something that pings similarity so that I can have something to
Speaking, I
reference.
think the
Absolutely.
Calvert County one would be, just again,
It's a good
let
one.
everyone make their decision from it, but it would
Sure.
be very accurate to what you're trying to do here, I believe. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mike, did you have this?
so what about this whenever, particularly kind of for your light show? Because it's dark and now your traffic is getting bad. What about this went over really well and you had your designated traffic times or your allotted times for people to come in and out, whether you decided it's going to be every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15, whatever. What about if you started booking that out and you said you sold more tickets for more memberships than what you had allotted for in times for people to come in, and now traffic started building up? I'm
Is
just
it
kind
fair
of
to say
throwing
I
it.
wouldn't? Because that's a terrible business model. Like, I
No,
would
no,
look
I'm
at
just
that and
throwing
go,
that
here's
out
how
as
many.
How you might could deal with the traffic on that.
Sure, so you have, I mean, you're constantly in conversation with any ticket holder, just to remind them of the event or something along
They're
those
gonna buy
lines.
these online, so when you go online, you're gonna say, you buy this online, I assume,
Sure,
and you buy this ticket or your membership,
Mm-hmm.
and you come at 6 o'clock to, well, you got a walk, you said a 2-hour walk.
you could be there for 2 hours walking around. That's your average
So
experience
your
time.
allotted time is kind of between 6 and 8, but your drive-through time, you're gonna be able to allow cars to come in every 2 or 3 minutes, every 5 minutes.
So they would be allotted to, if I understand your question correctly, they would basically, so you would have, let's say 15 minutes for devil's advocate. So Mr. Elliott would have a 15-minute interval, and then I would know, okay, we can handle 30 cars in that 15-minute slot. So I'm only gonna sell 30 memberships within that 15-minute slot, and they have to register their vehicle and everything, you know, their address, all that for membership, size T-shirt if they're getting one of those. So they've given me a lot of information, including their vehicle. And we've tested with cars, okay, how long does it take to park these people and to get them into the place? So I just wouldn't oversell. Again, we're not commercial. I don't want to be open 365. This is not the goal is not to have this be my bread and butter, but to be something really wonderful for the community. So if it's not benefiting the community, I would change that anyway.
Gotcha. And is there a difference between calling it a membership and selling a ticket? Is there a difference here?
As far as our event goes, it is still something that you would have access to, and you have a golden ticket, a piece of paper to get in. With memberships, you will be receiving a physical piece of something. Our plan right now is to do a reusable tote bag, so hopefully you're shopping, you have this reusable tote bag with you, or your water bottle, this and that and the other. Once you get a physical product, you are now under the jurisdictions of your local municipality, and subsequently can be taxed for that. So as far as we're concerned, yes, it benefits because there's now tax revenue that otherwise would be not allocated in this fashion, and these people have membership, sense of community. They're gonna know, I'm gonna know exactly who's on property and participating. And so the goal is for it to become much more communal of, oh, I know you, oh, I've seen you here, that kind of a thing.
Okay.
I had some more questions, Steve.
Yes.
So, if these people are all showing up and your lighting is, display is over here, and people are walking through and they're parking up here, what kind of lighting or what kind of security are you gonna have for where all those people gonna park?
So where the people are parking, we would have walking security because you're going to offer things like VIP parking for handicapped individuals and anybody that needs a little more attention or just would like a little more attention. So we'd have walking security through there, and there's going to be the same type of Christmas light display along the edge of the forest to illuminate the parking grounds, but nothing parking light-like, nothing commercial in that sense. Enough for people to get around, of course, but we're not trying to fly in anybody.
So if that one group is ready to leave because another group's coming in, are we gonna have to have some kind of sheriff department or something there to handle traffic?
I've talked with the sheriff's department. They said that they would be willing to work with me if it got to that volume. Again, the goal with something like this is once you have those certain people for that allotted time, yes, they're all gonna show up, hopefully somewhat promptly at that designated hour, but they will leave anywhere from 45 minutes, hour, and they trickle themselves out, is what we have found.
I'm not trying to be ugly, but
No.
when you start using the sheriff's department and EMS and the fire department, taxpayers pay for it.
I would plan to privately use them. I would talk to them about that. The sheriff, it would be under his jurisdiction, but EMS has said anybody off hours, we would just pay for that. And that's fully in our plan.
And one of the other concerns I've got, you know, here in the county, we have approved 2 of these events. We've got one down at that we approved and nothing's ever happened. We've got one over at Leon that we approved and nothing's ever happened. You know, if we're gonna approve these things, we need to see something to start to happen.
Sure, I agree.
Do you ever plan on having any glamping?
No. That's not for me, that's the face. No, thank you. That's a lot of dealing with a lot of people in a very intimate setting that I am not the type of person to do that. But again, bless all these people that have Airbnbs and stuff that they can come and stay weekends at. But my goal is not to have glamping.
So if we have vendors there and they're washing this or washing that or doing this or doing that, what happens to the gray water?
We have a different septic system set up. So there's one at the house right now, and then the plan for the 10-year plan, again, based on demand and availability, would be to put another septic system, so they would have their own kind of flushable bathrooms. I've talked to the, is it Madison Vines? The campground right around here. So for a lot of our vendors that have travel trailers that do this, they do the circuit full-time. I talked with them, they said, well, we'd be happy to have them there. And any RV camping, so if people were to come and just have their RVs but want to go to an event, they'd be able to park there and then have a shuttle service or something along those lines that we'd set up for them.
Just two quick things, kind of following up on something that you mentioned in response to Pete, talking about handicapped access.
Yes.
That's something that we do have to be aware of. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? And also, I noticed you say walking or carriage tour. Can you expand on that a
Sure.
little bit?
So carriage tour, just real quick, there are two like horse-drawn carriages on the property. I'm working with a couple of local equestrians to have some carriage horses, so we might be able to offer that, potentially even offering it to and from your car, just as a fun experience, or like the photo opportunity that it would be. One of the carriages holds 4 people with 2 drivers, and then one is more of a like a stagecoach-style wagon that would hold 16 people you'd see for a hayride or something like that. The utilization of the carriages was in ADA thought of if we had somebody who needed and wanted to be pulled around, we can try to accommodate that as best as we can. As far as ADA accessibility all over the grounds, part of the beautiful part of clearing all that forest is there's no topography that is not wheelchair accessible. We aim to make it more wheelchair accessible because that can be a very loose term of, yeah, technically it can roll here, but it's not pleasant. My goal is to make it a pleasant experience for ADA people. Again, working in deaf education, I worked with a lot of wonderful people who were bound to wheelchairs or other means of transport than our standard biped ways. So working with them, there's ramps, there's a cobblestone-style stamped concrete pathway we're entertaining. That's good for both horses because they can kind of get a grip whether they have shoes or not, and then also for wheelchairs, both manual and the electric ones.
For the carriage tours, would that be the same pathway as the walking tours? Or?
It probably would be more limited because we want, it would have to be, you know, in the circle of where the carriage can easily go. And within that forest topography, there's going to be more meandering paths that would be more suited to walking, especially to get to some of vendors. That's the concept.
Okay, thank
I
you.
believe Boar's Head has something like that as well.
They have
I've
a
been down
carriage
there
tour.
For their light
Yes.
show, and they've got a carriage ride like that, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
We
I'm
enjoyed
going
it.
to steal Mr. Cowan's point here, so
Okay.
apologies, Nathan. And this may be to you, Alan, or even anyone else in the room that has more experience with the fair here. Do we have an example of numbers of vehicles that park at a fair on a daily event and/or attendees, and maybe even a Madison High School game? Just so when we start throwing numbers, some people aren't overwhelmed whenever it may be a weekend or weekly occurrence at other events in the county.
I will be so happy to put those together by the next time we meet for our next workshop.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, I'll just segue into that, Alan, and, I mean, you know, when I'm thinking about other things like this that would be, you know, good examples of impact in the county, the Greatest Mountain Bluegrass Festival, and that's sort of a weird thing, because you're kind of one way in and one way out. I mean, obviously, you've got little ways you can shoot. Oak Park's not a super great road. I mean, I see the access to the property and just safety of everybody on the road, whether they're going there or just driving through. As residents, probably being one of the biggest hurdles that you have to overcome, because you've got a good piece of land here. You've got a lot of possibilities on spreading things out or doing things. Phasing construction is going to be a little bit, it'll be a little bit dictated by your need as well. I mean, you might find 200 parking spaces is enough, and where people rotate through. I'm sure you have a business plan, and there's an expectation on attendances and stuff like that. Make sure the numbers work. But the road is one thing you really have a little bit of lack of control over. And so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing VDOT's recommendations on that with those numbers. Is it a shared driveway?
There is an easement, yes, for a neighbor that is along that blue line there to the right. Yeah, Mr. Purrier.
is there any other way for them to access their property? Or
If
would
you
all-
look on his easement, it says that his access is Gate Road, but I don't believe he has any driveway access to that. So thus the addition of the road on the far right as well, to give him more of a private driveway, and that EMS would have something that's always an ingress or, ingress or egress if we needed to for any emergencies.
All right, thank you.
Property and land use now,
It is.
and how much do you plan on taking out of that land use?
Probably none of it. I talked with zoning for ag use, and we talked about our other adventures that happen throughout the rest of the year, and it seems to keep us in ag use. If I were to take the parking eventually, if we found that, I don't want to pull out 150 cars, or whatever happens for some kind of rain endeavor, then I would be probably addressing the parking lot and potentially taking that out of land use. But that's something that I would really have to see in the future, depending on what the response is.
So Alan, this can stay in land use and use it for these uses?
That is a wonderful question for the Commissioner of Revenue, who administrates that program. There is a letter from the Commissioner of Revenue that each of you have been provided with. It will be published in the next packet that comes out. I did not get it in time to include it in this one. That gives loose revenue numbers based on hypothetical numbers, but what the tax rates would be. I'm quite sure that when Ms. Wilshire gets ready to start working on that path, we'll address that further. But that's definitely a question for the Commissioner of Revenue.
Thank you.
One last question for Alan. Is this going to require a site plan?
This will absolutely require an engineered site plan. With the amount of roadway that's going to be installed, this will most certainly disturb more than 1 acre and will require a general construction permit from DEQ. I'll interject to say that I did visit the property with our E&S administrator. We looked at some of the driveway work that's going along there or proposed, as well as the area that'll be subject to the event. Ground disturbance in the event area is minimal. They're essentially using a forestry mulcher and just cutting out the dead wood. Everything's mostly going to stay the same in those areas except for the construction of the decks along the way. Those will certainly count towards their impervious area as they go, but mainly it's going to be the road installation that will result in that permit being required and the engineered site plan. Also, the entrance is important, and we're still ironing that out.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Other questions? Kind of just a clarification, since you mentioned the road work that's going to be necessary. In looking at the drawing here, it looks like you're planning on basically providing like maybe one way in and one way out.
The goal is to have 2 outs and 1 in, or 1 out and 2 in,
Okay.
depending on the time of day and what makes sense for that.
And it looks like you're trying to avoid interfering with the existing easement.
Correct. There's a
Okay.
lot of, like the left road meanders because there is a hunting or logging road on there. So we're just trying to follow the topography to avoid disturbance as much as possible.
Thank you.
No problem.
Any further questions for Ms. Wilshire? Any other questions? All right, thank you, ma'am. Yes. All right, at this point, I'm assuming that most of the audience is interested in having comments. Again, let me repeat that we would like, as much as possible, to let everybody have a chance to have their say. And in order to do that, we would like to try to limit time as much as possible, say 3 minutes or less. And I understand that we do have a group that has a PowerPoint presentation. I would prefer to let basically everybody that's here have their time to talk before we have to sit down and look at a PowerPoint presentation. So with those things in mind, do we have someone who would like to begin a comment? All right, would you identify yourself, please?
Turn your
Is the
mic
microphone on?
Can y'all hear me now?
I got a second one here somewhere.
Thank you. That's what you need to do. Oh, that's exactly right. Address the situation.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter, I do have slides, but there's just 4 of them, and I would ask to be able to put those up while I talk, and I will make every effort to be as brief as possible.
Okay, and if you would identify yourselves.
My name is Colton Purrier. I am the adjoining landowner that was referred to. I own tax map parcels 40, 42, and 43B. Appreciate the opportunity to appear this evening and to speak. And the concern that I have is that Ms. Wilshire seeks to fundamentally change the character of this entire tract of land and this area. This is not a special use permit. This is an application to build a theme park. This is ill-conceived. I don't think Ms. Wilshire knows how to do what she says she wants to do. If the way to go about something like this is to have a contract to purchase the property and a contingency for a 90-day study period. The proposed special use is inconsistent with the current land use in this area. This is poorly planned. There's a 40-page application that's been filed, and there's little or no substance to it. The application dated the 27th of May of 2025, which is submitted to the preliminary review committee for Frostfest, is markedly different from what has been presented to the board this evening. The special use application that has been referred to this evening, it identifies use requested is a special use permit for a holiday lighting event on tax map 4044 and tax map 4045. And then on the next page, it refers to 4 seasonal events. It lists 3. The winter event, 21 days, as indicated, Friday, Saturday, Sunday from 5 to 10 o'clock in November and December. Christmas at its best ends with the Epiphany on the 7th of January. Spring event for, it sounds like, 7 consecutive weekends on Saturday and Sunday. A summer event, and then it doesn't identify what the 4th event is. The 3 maps that have been provided, one for the review committee initially, and the 2 that are with this submission. Mr. Nichols, can you access the 2 maps that are provided with Ms. Wilshire's submission? We've got a 6-year plan and a 10-year plan, and there's a whole lot of development that is contemplated in that 10-year plan. As how exactly Ms. Wilshire would go ahead about accomplishing what it is that she says she's going to is not clear. What that would require. If you go to the next picture, Mr. Nichols, that yellow line is supposed to be a 14-foot high privacy fence that goes around the exterior of the property. First question is, if this is a event that people are going to enjoy going to, why do you have to have a privacy fence? And second, that is right next to the homes there on Fox Ridge subdivision. The scope and the cost of a 14-foot high privacy fence covering surrounding 100 acres, the materials cost, the engineering requirements, and the eyesore to the neighbors. Parking for 840 cars, plus she's referenced 180 vendors and 100 workers. The road network that's illustrated on this schematic is almost looks like something that you'd see in Richmond with all the overpasses. She's previously referenced that there's 2.4 million people who live within 2 hours of this area. The crush of traffic coming and going, and the requirement for an entrance upgrade with that many vehicles, and I don't think that there is sight distance enough to be able to accommodate all of that. The zoning ordinance specifically says that agricultural zone land, this district is established for the purpose of accommodating all types of rural open land uses such as agriculture and forestry. Basic aim is to promote farming and continuing as a continuing way of life in Madison County. The requirements for a standards for a special use permit include the use shall not tend to change the character and establish pattern of development of the area in which it wishes to locate. C, the use shall be in harmony with the intent of the zoning district and shall not adversely affect the use of neighboring property or the welfare of persons living and working in the neighborhood. D, the location and height of buildings, the location of walls, fences, entrances, lighting, parking shall not hinder or discourage the appropriate use of the development or adjacent land. And the safety and movement of vehicle traffic upon and adjacent streets and roadways will not be adversely affected. This is a purely commercial activity in an exclusively agricultural and residential area. Understand the county's interest in economic development. I think it's disingenuous that Ms. Wilshire represents that she came up with this idea after she moved here. I would suggest that she had this intent when she purchased the property, but she didn't know what she was doing then, and she doesn't know what she's doing now. Any economic benefit that might be derived from this project has got to be balanced against the adverse effect on this area and the detriment to the neighboring area. The application does not accurately represent the intent. If you've seen any of her Facebook posts and social media presence, the application itself, there's no real content. There's lots of form and pictures, but no real content. And it's not clear how to accomplish or what is intended to do.
Okay, sir, you've quite a bit exceeded the 3 minutes.
Well, if I might just finish with, after I appeared before the Economic Development Review Committee on the 3rd of June, when I went home that afternoon, there was a gate on my right-of-way. I've sent a letter to Ms. Wilshire and Mr. Bianco and asked them to remove the gate. They haven't done that. I've retained counsel. I anticipate filing suit. That's the kind of people that we're dealing with here. You don't put up a gate. It's not lawful. That's lawless conduct. And I would ask the Planning Commission not to recommend approval to the Board of Supervisors. I would ask the Board of Supervisors not to approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, other public comment? I think we had some, okay. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Thanks.
I'm Donna Gerhardt. I have 2 Oak Park Road residents, and that's why I'm here. I just wanted to read one paragraph. Hopefully it won't even take a minute. I am from Anne Arundel County, Maryland. I'm well familiar with the Maryland Renaissance Festival held in Crownsville, Maryland, which attracts over 300,000 visitors each year. And this translates to 15,000 people per day over 9 weekends. And I've been there. When the festival's going on, you cannot use those roads. I live on that road. So that's why I'm here. It just really concerned me, and I just wanted to inform you of those numbers.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
My name's Chris Covington. I live in Malvern. I am a land developer, and I agree with Colton on this, but the 840 parking area will require DEQ because cars coming in and out of this is going to make a muddy mess, which will run off into Dark Run, Little Dark Run, as well as the traffic coming. Most of this traffic is going to be coming from Northern Virginia, will be turning at Fishback. That intersection only has enough room for 4, maybe 5 vehicles. I turn it every day. 4 years ago, I was T-boned by somebody running a red light there. All this traffic, whether they tend to meter it or not, it's still going to be a lot of traffic that Fishback Road cannot handle. It's in horrible shape, anybody who drives it. It is not a primary road. You all were talking about finding out how many people come to the football game. Well, that's coming off of 29, which is a 4-lane road, not Fishback and not Oak Park. There is speeding nonstop on Fishback and Oak Park. You can hear it where I live in Malvern, people flying up and down. I know Mr. Elliott lives on O'Neill's. Cars will be coming down his road because that's going to be a way through there. I've lived here for 20 years, and I don't want to see this in Madison County. I don't think it aligns with the new, what do y'all call it? Yeah, I don't think it aligns with that. And, you know, that's just the traffic and the noise. And I think what it's going to turn into is not something this county wants. It's not going to be us in the county that are utilizing this. Most people here, we work, we come home, and we spend time with our families. We don't go to this. If you do, you might go one time.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ma'am, okay.
Hi, I'm Hannah Mazaris, and I also live in Malvern, and I have several concerns after hearing the presentation as well as my own research. So I am a resident of Malvern and regularly have trouble accessing Malvern via Oak Park when construction's being done, trees down, weather, and many things make it difficult for me to get in and out for work on a regular basis, excluding the fact that you now want to bring in how many cars and traffic utilizing a road that frankly is not set up to accommodate that more than what we have, if even that. Also, to follow up on what was said, I am also a cosplay and fantasy entertainer, as well as an assistant to a vendor who travels and attends many events similar to those proposed on the location. And I have firsthand experience of just the traffic, the major safety issues, as well as sanitary issues, drunkenness, rowdiness, and just overall trouble that can happen at these events and the people. And speaking from that experience, traveling in and out, we do not stay locally when we travel to these events during the winter and during the spring and summer. We would, myself speaking in the community that I am a part of, are much more likely to stay at in Culpeper or Charlottesville and travel in for it. Madison does not have the infrastructure for something like that, as well as most of the stuff. We don't go to the restaurants. We don't utilize anything other than the fair that we are attending to sell and to vend. We bring food, we bring stuff in with us because it just, timing is not, does not allow us really to add anything to the area that we are a part of. My biggest concern, though, as a young resident who is hopefully going to start a family soon and live here, is the general consensus of the people. I know Madison County is fantastic and the community here is wonderful, but as stated, we expect people from Northern Virginia, other cities and stuff. I work in Charlottesville mainly because I want to come home to Madison County, to the beautiful, the quiet, the good people here. And I've experienced the drunkenness, the rowdiness, the accidents that happen when there is roads that are not able to accommodate the amount of people. Many safety concerns be it done. And as noted, she is going to bring in EMTs, but I did not convincingly hear anything about any form of traffic regulation on that road. There are blind turns, there are corners, as already stated, the intersections as well. I would be very afraid if this was to be put up to commute and to live down that road just because of the violations and traffics the near accidents that I have seen. But I thank you all for hearing my concerns, and I ask that it's not approved. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Mark Bruno. I live right there at the top left corner of the map on Fox Hunters Lane. And I agree with things that have been said thus far. I used to commute from Heartland College in Rapidan to my home on Fox Hunters Lane 3 times a day. I'd be back and forth. And I know, and I have familiarization for sure on that section of Oak Park Road coming from 15, okay, coming towards the property that we're discussing here. Because I used to continue on to Fishback, back to my house. And I would say that the characteristic of that road, Oak Park Road, it's a tricky road to start with. And I would say it's a dangerous road in many ways. A lot of people speed on it. There's it's not a road that reeks of safety, okay? So add volume to it. And I think adding volume to that road is going to create a problem. It's going to be an even greater problem than it is already. The comment about the condition of Fishback, it's true. Fishback Road's in terrible shape since they started the gravel and oil thing. When I pull out of Fox Hunters Lane onto Fishback, I deal with the situation of people speeding, okay? If I look to my right, traffic coming from 29, it's very difficult sometimes to pull out of Fox Hunters Lane safely, especially sometimes if the overgrowth is there and hasn't been trimmed. I just see adding volume to these roads is going to be detrimental to the characteristic, the happy characteristic of our neighborhood. Okay, it's going to change the whole characteristic of our home. And I see this as something that's maybe fun for a few, fun for the people who come to visit, Northern Virginia, et cetera. But to change the characteristic of our home neighborhood, our home here in Madison, I think it's detrimental. So I would be very much against it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Robin Daniel, and my husband and I reside in Madison County right off of 230. When we heard about this, we contacted Ms. Wilshire, and she was kind enough to show us the property. Number one is you can't even see the event venue from the road. Number two, she has really studied and done her research on this. We were concerned it was going to impact us. We're right here, 2 miles from this. I have no concerns after talking and visiting the site that she will do as she says, and she does know what she's doing. I feel this will bring income to Madison County. I feel that it will bring notoriety to Madison County. Right now, most of the time, we go to Orange County or Culpeper. There's nothing here in Madison. This might help Madison grow. So I support this event venue being approved. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Margot McLean. Who? Margot McLean. I live at 116 Riding Trail Lane, or on the map directly behind where the bar would go in. So good evening to the planning board and my fellow community members, and thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share my thoughts. I'm here tonight to speak in strong opposition to the proposal to convert the 180-acre forested area into a large-scale commercial event venue. First and foremost, this land is zoned for residential and agricultural use. Introducing a commercial entertainment venue with 850 parking spaces, which is equivalent to that of a Walmart supercenter. Amplified music, LED light shows, and heavy traffic directly violates that intent. Allowing such a development would set a dangerous precedent. Repurposing protected rural land for commercial use undermines the very fabric of Madison County's planning principles. And I wonder at what point does a special use permit become a commercial license? Let's talk about the wildlife. A proposed 14-foot fence around the property would create a severe barrier for the many animals that call this forest home. Deer, foxes, bobcat, black bears, species that rely on the open corridors to survive. This kind of habitat fragmentation not only disrupts the ecosystem, it can also lead to injury and death for animals trying to bypass this fence. Then there's the issue of noise and light pollution. Rural forests are meant to be dark and quiet. high-volume music, LED light shows, crowds, porta potties, trash services, all contribute to the unnatural level of noise and disruption. This is harmful to the nocturnal species like bats and owls, and deeply unsettling for those of us who have moved here for peace and quiet. This proposal also stands in direct opposition to the values of conservation and stewardship that Madison County is known for. Our forests provide clean air, water, carbon storage, biodiversity, and natural beauty. Turning this land into an entertainment venue throws those longstanding community values aside. As for the people who live nearby, residents chose this community for its rural charm, not for concerts, traffic jams, and glowing light displays. This development threatens our quality of life, our property values, and the integrity of our neighborhoods. Environmentally, the risks are very real. Soil compaction, erosion from a gravel 850 slot parking lot, and the construction necessary for the infrastructure could easily damage streams, water tables, and nearby farmland. Even the plant and insect life will suffer from altered light cycles and environmental disturbance. Let me be clear, we are not anti-progress, we are pro-responsible planning. There are places in the county already zoned for commercial activity. This is not one of them. So I respectfully urge you, honor the current zoning laws, protect this land, and stand with the residents and wildlife that depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Meredith Hanley. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight regarding the Wilshire property. My biggest concern is her description she gave regarding the solar installation. Virginia has legislation called the VCEA, the Virginia Clean Economy Act. This requires us to achieve net zero, and it's forcing us to use wind turbines and solar for our energy. House and Senate bills are providing, state House and Senate bills, are providing subsidies and grants by the billions to mass produce and connect it to the grid. The new bills for this are called parking lot solar, and they're layered in domestic and foreign contracts. If there are concerns about foreign countries owning land in the United States, this industry keeps that door open through decades-long land leases. Land in rural Virginia is being targeted for energy use. While counties like Madison have tight solar ordinances, the plan at the state level is to remove those ordinances and continue mass producing solar and turbines. According to Piedmont Environmental Council, which has their own parking lot solar bill, 2 acres of parking lot is needed for 1 megawatt, which is approximately 4,000 panels. Plus electrical hookup, lithium battery storage, and increased transmission lines, many being pushed through eminent domain to the projects to the grid. The county could be looking at tens of thousands of panels on this one property that will need to be disposed of, and according to market trends, that's more likely to be sooner than later. Ms. Wilshire's description is utility solar. When we talk about commercial solar, that's not the term that's used, it's utility. In order for her private solar to produce the energy for a nightlight show, all she needs is battery storage added to it. So I think a better understanding of her future use and capacity of solar and whether it's contracted out, subsidized, needs to be discussed in detail. According to the DEQ violations, sediment runoff and erosion are 2 of the biggest issues from these projects. While I'm not for telling people what to do about their land, with their land, this is different because this is allowing an energy company to develop clean energy experiments near neighborhoods. Also, she doesn't sound like, since this doesn't sound like a regular revenue stream for the county, and it comes with significant impacts and risks, this venue may be far better off renting an already existing site with available parking like the Madison Fairgrounds instead of further covering our precious land with more parking lots. And for a business that may never have dealt with this scope of a project, could be a huge financial risk for the county. Is she considering parking lot solar as a revenue stream? It makes sense from a business aspect. Energy lease revenue is much easier than actually hosting events. One carport with a few panels is very different than covering a parking lot with thousands of panels hooked to the grid, as she described. With the chance that ordinances are removed, the county level protection may be in the parking lot permit itself or the venue permit. An environmental impact study should be required and protections put in place. If this site sits on wetlands, what are the concerns about installing large electrical solar units and the possible...
Ma'am, you've used more than 3 minutes.
I'm
Thank you.
sorry, it's really just like, let me just sum it up then. basically, the biggest concern is the solar. It is the utility aspect that it is being flooded with the industry to have venues like this put the solar on your parking lot. My biggest concerns is her subsidies, is her revenue. They're layered in corporate and foreign and national contracts, and I think this really needs to be denied, these permits denied until, and I think they also should put a surety bond in place for every resident surrounding this venue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Mazzaris. I'm a resident in Fox Ridge. I live at 286 Bridle Trail Lane. My property is right adjacent to where it'll butt up, I guess, the wall and her end property, as well as our property also backs up to Fishback. 25 years ago, when we left northern New Jersey to come to Madison, Virginia, we came because of the rolling hills, the quietness. We did not intend to leave northern New Jersey to move to Charlottesville or northern Virginia. We sought out Madison to raise our family. We have had other family come down because of its beauty. My husband and I both travel a good almost hour when we go to work down at Charlottesville. We choose to work there, so when we leave UVA and Martha Jefferson respectively, and I think a lot of you would agree, as you're coming up 29, the chaos in the downtown area, and then you have all down by Stonefield. By the time you hit Lowe's in Ruckersville, it's starting to melt away as the mountains open up, and when you cross into Madison, you can see a distinct change even from Ruckersville. That's why we came here. Residential areas, farmland, agricultural. We love the fact where we live. We love the fact that on the weekends we can leave the chaos behind. I have concerns with someone who recently only moved into the county. I find it hard to believe that she bought this land and didn't have an idea. If you go back and you look in her social media profiles, she's essentially selling tickets, talking about it. There are people posting they can't wait to come to the Renaissance Festival and get sloppily drunk. I encourage you to go back and look at the Facebook pages, her Instagrams, and different things like that. The way it looks is that she feels like this is a done deal already. Special use permit, I agree with whoever said it. It sounds more like it's a commercial use. There are plenty of commercial areas in Madison to do something like that. There is land all up and down 29 that sits there. There's land that, have sold parcels, the land that sits undeveloped right by Food Lion. And when Food Lion did come in these other areas, there is noise pollution, there is light pollution. We are a residential neighborhood. We like to look up at the night and see the stars. My sister lives on Ruth Road. We can sit on the top of where her house is, and we can see the light pollution that is increasing. I have trees. I live on Fishback. I can hear the sirens, the cars. I can be in my house and hear the noise coming up and down Fishback. The sirens, I can tell you which direction they're turning on Oak Park Road. I can see even the light pollution from the town, from where we live, and there are all the trees there as a buffer. Everybody has spoke. It is dangerous. I ask all of you to think about the amount of accidents between Fishback and 29, even the one down by Sheets. The traffic's increasing. It's not going to get better, and this proposal does not talk about the real significant damage that can be done to, animals crossing the road, people trying to get in and out of places, and that is a huge concern. I will also speak to this potential in terms of these wells, the septic, all of this stuff. I had to dig 3 wells on my property in Fox Hunter before I could get it to pass whatever that metric is. I had to put a second septic system in. I've lived there for 20 years because of the issues with runoff and drainage, the aquifer. So the concern is eventually when she puts in septic systems, when she wants to dig wells, how is that potentially going to affect our water usage? Again, with the understanding that Fishback has a potential 400 homes coming in that are going to want to put wells in, as well as septic systems too. I have issues with the home values going down.
We're well over 3 minutes again.
So, again, we have Graves Mountain, we have Christmas festivals, we have Boar's Head, we have Northern Virginia, Busch Gardens, Kings Dominion, we have festivals at Graves. We have these things in the area. The Renaissance Festival at Lake Anna, we don't need it in Madison County. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brian Majeski. Like Margot, I live at 116 Riding Trail Lane. We're probably the closest property to where the fence and everything will go. So it is a primary concern to us. I'd like to echo my friend Colt. Ms. Wilshire celebrated on social media when she bought this property, saying she wanted to own festival grounds since at the time she was 18. So the notion that it was a philanthropic spirit that came over her when she heard about Madison's financial issues to put this in isn't just disingenuous, it's a fabrication. This property is surrounded by one of the densest residential areas in Madison County. Fox Ridge, Malvern, Happy Hills, and Crestview constitute 349 houses and thousands of residents. And I can tell you the impact of approving this permit will not be a harmonious thing for the people that live around it. We purchased these properties believing there was a commitment to exclude commercial enterprise in that space. These residents, myself, Malvern, everyone, we've spent decades investing in our property, beautifying it and increasing the value of it, and allowing what will be a commercial business to operate in this area voids that commitment, and the ensuing degradation of property values will nullify those investments. Ms. Wilshire understood the nature and limitations of the zoning district and proceeded as if getting this permit was merely a formality. Because this will be the commercial business next door to us. On June 2nd, the proposal was Frostfest. In the short time that's passed since then, it's ballooned to include a bunch of other events. And the reality is it's unclear what her intention is to do with this property because she's casting a broad net for all manner of events to be held on the property. According to her website, there's solicitation for galas, corporate events, bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs, birthdays, school functions, and all of this in addition to the festival. So when she says she doesn't want to be a business that's open 365, these solicitations indicate to me that that might not also be an accurate statement. There's even a review for a wedding that was recently held on the property. So it's not a business that's coming, it's a business that's happening. In closing, year-round events of the function of a commercial business and the solicitation of these ancillary events constitute year-long business. Any financial benefit in Madison will come at the expense of residents like me. The notion that people are going to leave a festival and then head into town to spend money at restaurants and shops is folly. That's not how any festival works anywhere. My property won't have the same value when an untold number of people are getting sloppy drunk, as someone responded to Molly online after they were invited to a Renaissance festival. Understood. Lastly, the Jurassic Park style fence that she plans to put up, 14 feet high, a couple of 100 feet from my house, will definitely not sit within the statute of intent of the zoning district and not adversely affecting neighboring property. No one in our neighborhood wants to look at a 14-foot fence for the rest of our time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Poteet. I am a Madison resident. I live actually on the other side of Madison, so I actually live pretty close to Graves Mountain where that festival is located. And that festival, how many people do you think come to that one during that time? Probably 3,500, right? Easily. That's a one-way in, one-way out. They seem to have it pretty under control. And a lot of people seem to really like that festival. We go every year, we take our family. I am actually in support of this project. I think that I have 3 teenage kids. They have absolutely nothing to do. They have really, we do the Hoover Ridge events, we do the things like that, but there really isn't anything for people to take their families to. I understand that you're saying we could go to this place, we could go to Boar's Head, things like that, but I believe what they're proposing is something a little more affordable for families to go to, especially in this county. And like Mr. Whitman had said, you really liked that festival at Amory Gardens, right? It's beautiful, it's so magical, and it really, and actually in that, that festival actually has it has one road that they come in and then one road they go out on. It's residential too, it's Calvert County, it's a very small area just like this, and it's something that just the county really looks forward to. It's also put on by artists, which obviously she's an artist. She wants to put on this thing. I think that the arts are really lacking in this county. I'm sorry to say, you know, there's not a lot for local artisans to do. So this is another opportunity to kind of put that into the community as well. I am an artist here in the county, but I actually go work in Fauquier because that's where we're able to make more money there. But we would like to be able to participate in things. I go to Charlottesville, I'm in a couple galleries down there. There just isn't anything here. So the fact that there is gonna be a place for someone like me to be able to have an area to work in also would be nice. It's also, you know, it's not far from my house, and I would like to be able to put into the community. My question too is like, is this going to also offer like seasonal jobs? Because it sounds like this is something that you're gonna need people to run like some booths, right? So what's the job market in this area? Also, I feel like maybe this would be cool for especially like young kids. My kids have to go work in Culpeper. There really isn't anything here for them. So I think that would be another thing. So there's my point. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, ma'am.
My name is Cameron Covington. I live in Malvern, and I have just a couple points to make. One of them is a correction. Earlier, you guys said it was not in a floodplain. It is. It's on her application. On page 2 of 5 of her application, it's checked. It's in a floodplain. Just wanted to correct that. This is solely a commercial venue. I mean, that's what they want to do. In your comprehensive plan, on page 8 of 115, it's talking about how farm acreage has been lost in the county over from 2012 to 2022. 7,400 acres were lost. This whole area, it's nothing but farming. That's how we want to keep it. I'm 25. I lived 5 years in the Pittsburgh metropolitan area. I want to stay here. I don't want to live in an area getting developed. I work in Spotsylvania County, Stafford County, Caroline County. They can develop there. That's the way I look at it. That's the way that most people my age look at it, and especially the people that live in Malvern, along Oak Park that are my age. We don't want it either. It's not just old people. I hate to put it like that, but it's the truth. And, you know, that's about all I have to say other than DEQ is probably going to come out with another, I don't know what you call it, but basically on Little Dark Run and the Robinson River, the whole Rappahannock watershed and the aquifer, I don't remember the name of the aquifer, is basically getting tapped out. It's a huge issue going down the road. I see it every day. I work in civil construction. 2 summers ago, I was benched down an excavator 60 foot down, and about 30 foot of it, and this is in Culpeper, not 15 miles north of this, there were cracks about this thick in the soil, okay? She wants to add more wells, and then the pollution to the rivers and the creeks, I'm not for it. That's about all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. My name is Carolyn Wall, and I do live in Melbourne. And I'm an old person. I moved here to Virginia in January of 19 to be closer to 2 or 3 children. And I looked for where I wanted to live. We drew a big circle. I have a daughter in Manassas and a son in Gordonsville. And where I live in Melbourne is where I want to be. It's rural, it's quiet. This is going to affect our lifestyle and our quality of life, I feel. I am going to reiterate traffic. Oak Park right now is dangerous enough as it is. And then one of you gentlemen mentioned the new traffic that is going to come across Fishback because of the development that I think has already been approved along there. And then my other concern would be alcohol consumption. If you're going to have wineries and my son works part-time in a couple of wineries, but what are they going to have to monitor alcohol consumption and people leaving the property that might be impaired? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ross Shiflett, Pratt, Virginia. Just got a few things, really have more questions than anything else. Just want to make sure some things haven't changed. This permit is for the applicant only, it's a special use permit. No one else can use this for anything, it's just for what she's got this particular case for, correct? That's one of them. The next question is, on the property as it sits zoned today, are there any prohibited agricultural uses on the property as it sits today? Is it allowed full county with agriculture uses as laid out in the comprehensive plan or the zoning ordinance to be more specific, just like just that? And the third question I got, like, to make sure I have clarity on, that the health department, the VDOT folks, DEQ, and the zoning folks, as well as the Brian Daniels group, which is the Commissioner of Revenue, they all still haven't got the final work in on this case yet. I'd just like to be able to talk about all those things and see them at some point in time. And as far as I know, all of those are incomplete. And of course, this is a workshop meeting. I still understand it has to be done, but just want to make sure that those type bases are being covered. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name is Mary DiMartino. We live on Riding Trail Lane. And just a couple things. You know, when we moved here, you know, we really looked into a place that was not going to change much. And we know that places are going to have change and growth. But I tried to make sure that my neighborhood would stay the same. And our builder, Trigon, they had informed us that it's very difficult to build in Madison, and we're very safe there without having the expectation of much change, and then things were rezoned. My husband works in Fairfax County. He's a fireman. And shortly after we moved here, with his commute, I asked him, I said, should we consider moving closer to Northern Virginia, which I did not want to do. And he said, absolutely not. He said, I love my job and I love what I do, but I love coming home. And we just enjoy sitting in our yard and in the quiet. You know, people, like, we have family in other states and they just can't even fathom that we don't get food delivered. I am okay with that. If I want something, it's 20 minutes away. If I want to go to an event, then I'll go, but I don't want it here. And as far as the noise, there's gonna be noise. 10 o'clock at night, I don't care if it's Christmas music. It's still noise. It's still lights. When I mentioned to my daughter that there's a possible Renaissance fair coming, and I pointed, I said, right through there. And she said, Mom, I have felt safe in this neighborhood for 20 years. If this happens, I don't believe I will feel safe at home anymore. And that saddened me, because we do feel safe in our neighborhood. We have great neighbors. And as far as the police being able to help with the traffic, I had some concerns when I have, like we all have seen, semis blow through 29 and Fishback. I contacted the police. I went and I spoke with the police officer and I said, can you please get somebody to monitor? And he said, we are so understaffed, we don't have it. And I said, well, what are you gonna do with all this building? He said, we are so concerned because we don't have what it takes. So I'm just wondering, if this is how we are taxed right now, how will these resources that we do not have be able to be utilized somewhere else? So those are, you know, some of the concerns that we have. And I'm wondering, do we have an impact analysis and an economic analysis, if that is something that we will be able to see moving forward on how this will affect Madison County? Thank you so much for your letting me speak.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dennis Bigler, a Malvern resident. I'm in the oldest house in Malvern. My kids were born in my house. They're in their 30s and 40s. And, you know, I'll echo many of the thoughts that were shared. We moved here. I didn't move here for, and I was much younger then, 37 years ago. So I didn't move here for bars, galleries, restaurants. I moved here for the peace, quiet of the country here. You know, we sit outside, enjoy the quiet, look at the mountains, love where I live. I cycle through Madison County every day. Every day I go out of Malvern and I take a right. So I like the right turns, and I pass the entrance of Colts Farm and this proposed venue, and Oak Park is getting more dangerous, but I cycle 20, 30 miles every day through Madison. And so I passed this. I rode every day this winter, missed a couple days in March, that's it. I went down Oak Park Road many days where there was one lane with the plow going because of the snow. So there weren't, you know, two cars could not pass. So in the winter time, when these venues from snow, but also I'm thinking the impact of this traffic. I'm in the old home there in Madison. 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, I lost my septic system and had a gravity system. I've got a great place for it, but I was rejected to put in a gravity system and had to put in a lift system that went all the way across my field, and it cost me a fortune. It's my wife and I in the house. So it's not a big impact of, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 people in the home anymore. But I had to put this in, and part of it was the big impact on the Chesapeake Bay watershed. This area is right there. So Dark Run goes into the Robinson, the Rapidan to the Rappahannock to the Chesapeake Bay. So I had to jump through hoops to get this septic in, and I think of the impact of something like this. And many of the things that are mentioned that I love looking, we see wildlife, we see everything out there, and the impact of the light, especially in the wintertime, is a big impact, but it's the reason many of these people live here today, that we're not moving to Northern Virginia. I'm not moving to Charlottesville. It's there if I want it, a gallery, DC, Richmond, the beach, but I love where I live, and I don't want to see it change. Thank you.
Hi, I'm TJ Wright. I'm a Malvern resident. I just have a couple of real quick comments. When I heard 3,500 people a day, the intersection at 29 meters about 6 vehicles, if everybody's with it and on the ball, at a time. We're talking about 145 light cycles to exit that many people. If it's half of that, it's 73 light cycles. That back people up half a mile, well beyond their entrance or exit. I just encourage someone to do a traffic analysis on this, because it's ridiculous, in my opinion. I think it's an interesting idea she has, but not for Melvin, or not for Madison. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, y'all. I know that my brother and I look like the easiest game of Where's Waldo in this room, but I just wanted to appreciate you guys that.
Your name, please?
Matthew Wynn. My name. We live there on 435 Fox Hunters Lane, 40C-1. I think Mr. Allen can pour that out if he wants to. But last year, my brother and I were at the stoplight of Fishback and 29. Y'all know that a lot of cars come through Madison through 29, and a lot of people who here live near Fishback Road, they speed right down that road. And as you go down Fishback Road heading from Malvern to 29, there's a little sign there. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it says that it's the end of a 35 speed limit zone. And I don't need to tell y'all that we hear that traffic all the time. And it's a major concern. There's a lot of wildlife. This development, or excuse me, this special permit use here, just puts a lot of concern on infrastructure. And those footing the bill, in the state that Fishback already is going to be the taxpayers. It's a matter of safety for me and my brother, going in and out almost every day, going to town, going to the drugstore. And so we just wanted y'all to really take a look at that and really consider that if you haven't already. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Estes. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for the service that you provide to our community. I'm present tonight at this proceeding not only as a concerned Madison County citizen, but more importantly, an owner of an adjacent property with state road frontage. I apologize for not having the tax map number, but our lot is the one to the right of the entrance on 634. And additionally, I'm unique to a lot of the speakers that have come up before you tonight in that I am a lifelong Madison County resident, lived in that property until I went off to school, came back 4 years later, and am now living down off of Route 607. As a concerned citizen, my concerns are rooted in both the tangible and the intangible qualities of life and characteristics of not only our county as a whole, but more importantly, the community surrounding the property in question. These indelible qualities and characteristics have compelled those of us who have spent nearly our entire lives to remain here and drawn countless others to relocate here and call it their home too, as many of our speakers would qualify for. Now, these qualities and characteristics include, but are not limited to, the reasonable expectations of safety, peace and quiet, privacy, and the natural beauty that exemplifies Madison County, and that beauty will not be usurped at some point for the sake of someone else's profit or the lure of the tax dollar. As an owner of the adjacent property with state road frontage, my concerns encompass the potential negative impact on the property's value and marketability due to increased traffic, and a likely requirement that the roadway in front of my property will need to be altered to address the enormous increase in traffic and associated safety concerns as a result of that increase. Such an alteration would require additional space that could impact my existing road frontage and front yard. While the speed limit that many people have talked about tonight is posted at 45 miles an hour, my vast experience on that road is that a sizable percentage of traffic well exceeds that limit on a regular basis. While this issue is ultimately a matter of enforcement, we've heard from the limitations that have been conveyed to another speaker tonight from law enforcement here in the county about the personnel that they just don't have. The potential elevated safety risk, regardless, would remain intact in the absence of any enforcement.
You're over your 3 minutes.
Okay.
Please wrap it up.
I thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I would ask that this Planning Commission and the board not approve. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment on this case? Any other public comment?
Hey Steve, Trace Barnes online from Aroda.
Okay, would you go ahead and proceed?
Just wanted to point out, I'm lifetime resident, but also economic development and tourism. Mr. Shiflett pointed out good points about VDOT, all of those things, DEQ, site plans, a lot of things will be flushed out with that. And I imagine proffers will be added as well. But And like Brian, we're waiting for Brian Daniel, we will have time to do meals tax, sales tax, transient occupancy tax. And thinking of that time of year when our businesses are struggling, the Airbnbs are struggling, and it would be a benefit to all of them as well. So hopefully we can come to a compromise on many fronts.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Do we have anyone else online? No? Okay. Any other public comment? And I do want to thank you for coming out to the workshop, which is where this is supposed to take place, to express your concerns. We do listen to everything you say, and I appreciate all the comments tonight. Any other public comment? All right, thank you. We do have several more cases.
Chairman, I got a
Yes, sir.
question, please, for Alan.
Mhm.
Will there be an environmental impact study done on this?
Depends on what DEQ requires when we see their submission for a site plan.
Well, the concern I got here, Alan, is you bring 800 cars in there, and if you go around to where they're building any new parking lots, they're putting in something to take care of the oil, the gas, the antifreeze. And I don't care if you bring new cars in there or old cars, they're gonna leak. You bring 800 cars in there for 21 days straight, and then we get big hard rains, is any of that stuff going to dark run?
I'm going to defer to others to answer that question because I'm not prepared to answer it at this time.
You see the concern I got, though? I can answer it. I am a land developer in northern Virginia. You have to put in biofilters, and there has to be, for that many cars, there has to be parking, and there has to be adequate drainage. And there's nothing showing on that, for even less cars.
Yes, sir. We have county staff that deals with that. Okay, thank you.
And I have friends at DEQ that
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a call tomorrow. So.
All right. All right. I guess at this point, if the applicant would like to respond to some of the questions that have been raised.
Steve, can I start with just maybe a couple things, that she can address that?
Yeah,
as
sure.
she's
Yeah,
talking?
Mike, yeah.
So one of the questions that, and you don't have to answer this right now for me, but I got a question of why you want to do the privacy fence, and you can address this as you're talking.
In chatting with many of the neighbors, the privacy fence, there was concern of noise. So a privacy fence wasn't to keep anybody out, but to keep another noise barrier since the tree coverage wasn't enough for many to be satisfied with that. The immediate fencing around like my home and pool are because it's a home and pool and I don't want people in there. Garden, same reason. The goal is to grow the food for us to eat, and while wildlife is welcome to some of it, a fence helps with that. And then around the festival grounds themselves, the fence, when you have a vendor or you have a vendor contract with anybody, they bring their entire life's work to your weekend event. So you want to give them some kind of security if they want to leave their booth stocked overnight or things of that nature, as opposed to taking everything back and putting it in a car. So the fences are predominantly for privacy in the sense of the immediate of the residents,
Okay.
but everything else
I wasn't
is
sure if it was the main reason. I got it. Secondly, I was pretty sure at the first of all this, we said there was going to be no solar.
So I want to put solar in my house, like the little orange box, that's my house, but it's not like I'm putting solar places. I'm putting it on my house because it mitigates some of the AC cost because it's been.
But that's not part of any of this.
I mean, it's on the same property in that it's my building, but that's not part of my overall proposed
What I
anything.
understood from one of the,
Yes.
it was something completely different.
Yeah, I didn't understand that as well.
Okay. And lastly, all I have is, if we okay to get your number from,
Please.
from Alan and to come get our own little dog and pony or something like that?
Sure, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, you can come anytime.
Well, while we're doing this, and you mentioned that 14-foot fence, it's difficult to tell from the GIS pictures. It doesn't look like that's going to be on the property line. Is
No,
that
it's
correct?
about
Set back into the woods.
At least 50-some feet. It varies depending on the topography, but it's not something that a neighbor would even be able to see.
Okay.
and something that I could do privately, and they'd probably never know.
Yeah.
But it's not a fence on the property line to kind of delineate anything of that nature. It's if I have different equestrian shows or things like that, and an animal gets out, you just want to keep them contained.
Yeah,
If I
that
can,
answers
Mr.
my
Chairman,
question, yeah.
another question, I should have asked this earlier.
Sure.
Is this in conservation easement or anything like that? Are there any special?
I was unaware it's in a flood. I believe that's incorrect. I will double check that if that's part of the parcel, but I had never.
I can correct, we looked at, there is a portion around Dark Run that is in the floodplain, but it's probably 3% of your property is all. It's
Okay.
nothing that's,
Nothing that's.
Alan can bring it up on the GIS if he wants, but overlay. but
Mr.
it's-
Whitman, if I may, while the property does contain some floodplain along Little Dark Run, none of the proposed area to be utilized for the event venue is within the floodplain area.
Correct.
So
Yeah, it's
the
just-
box is correct on the application, there is some on the parcel, but there's none in the area subject to the event venue.
But are you aware of any outside conservation easements with like?
There wasn't in our
3D?
research or anything along the property. To address the disingenuous nature, whenever you look at a property that's something of this size with this much investment, you do utilize and look at all of the different factors within that, Madison County's needs being one of them. I did look at Louisa County. My parents are in Louisa County on 30 acres there where I was in Gordonsville previously because they have multiple homes on the property. Louisa County had some other means for infrastructure and needs and said, oh, look at Madison. They have some really nice land for sale. You want to move there. You want to be a resident. And I said, oh, okay, that sounds like a good plan. They said, but we'd love to hire you as an installer. And then they saw the price for a Christmas lights display and said, no, you should go do that privately somewhere. So I have had a plan to have a festival grounds of some nature, of course, but if this doesn't work out, it's a beautiful second home.
Okay. Any other specific questions from the commission?
I guess I'll further, Mr. Nichols, do you know, are there any outside easements? I'm getting at, is this parcel, could it be subdivided now with the new laws with the state as well?
Well, there's nothing new about it. You certainly could subdivide the parcel. I'm not aware of any subdivisions that have taken place in the last 10 years, so it probably has the same rights as any other A1 parcel, and there's 3 of them. Each one could be divided, 3 times, so you'd have 3 new parcels in the residue for each of the existing ones.
Okay. That's what I was curious to know if that had been exhausted or not.
Do we know what the agricultural use has been over the last 20 or 40 years?
I do not know what's been filed on their land use application, so at risk of giving you incorrect information, I'm going to decline, but I'm happy to get that for you.
Great, thank you.
That's
Any
all
other
I have.
questions from the commission? All right, do you have, I assume you've been taking notes. Would you have anything else you would like to address now?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any further discussion before we move on to our next case? Good. All right, we have case number ZOA-05-25-02, an ordinance amendment. This is the first workshop on this. The Board of Supervisors has directed the Planning Commission to develop modifications to the Madison County zoning ordinance, Article 16, Development Impact. Alan, anything to add there?
I'm going to ask Mr. Smith if he would like to take this one.
Okay. Jim, since you've
If
been
not, I'll
working
do
on
it,
this,
but
we'll put you on the spot.
what would you like?
From the top? I think it's in the package. Has everybody had a chance to look at the proposed changes to what we have?
Yeah, maybe the Cliff Notes first.
Okay.
Okay.
This is in response pretty much to the bill that slipped by through the General Assembly that would require that future development for, I guess, just all residential, I think it's all residential, would go not for review and public comment before the Planning Commission, not for recommendation and approval by the Board of Supervisors, but solely to a designated person, which would probably be Planning and Zoning Administrator, to check the boxes that are checked in the application with the requirements under the ordinance. And if it satisfied the requirements of the ordinances, it was approved. Our concern was large housing developments and the impact that would have, fiscal impact that would have on the county. So we created this ordinance. We had a development impact ordinance that was woefully inadequate. It's been changed. I did the first draft on it. This was coming in addition to the board's direction to us. The board had also directed the Economic Development Committee to look at development impact ordinance and the requirement of a fiscal impact analysis and or economic impact analysis on new developments. So this was a perfect storm that came together and hit broadsided with the nor'easterner from Richmond with the new statute, the statutory requirements. So the revision of Article 16, as you see, and it's redlined and cross-marked, is before you. Alan and I have had the opportunity to meet. There is one change that needs to be made, and that's the striking of provision, or paragraph 16-3, as you see it there, and which provides that the FIA, fiscal impact analysis, and if required, an economic impact analysis shall be prepared by a consultant whose competency to perform such studies is recognized, period. Alan had a very good question, who's going to recognize it and what are the criteria? So there are two provisions in what's before you tonight for discussion. Is that, number one, there will be a policy established by the person designated by the Board of Supervisors to be our economic or development impact analysis maven on the Board of Supervisors. We anticipate that probably would be Alan. To draft policies and procedures and requirements of what would be contained in an FIA and an EIA. So the provision that is before you, and I would strike 16-3 as I just read it, and insert therefore the FIA and if required EIA shall be prepared by a person or firm that has and demonstrates hand-on experience in creating fiscal impact analysis for local governments. Key personnel must be identified and each must meet the qualifications set forth in this article and documents incorporated by reference. And the documents incorporated by reference is the policy statement that we'll be writing and amending from time to time. The proposers must demonstrate that they have no connection to Madison or its staff that have an impact upon the performance of services. All proposers must submit at least 3 references.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
Just to interrupt, I understand that Hannon is in the process of reviewing your draft, and those changes are will be coming before our next workshop on this. So before we decide too many things, I suspect that our attorney's going to have some strong suggestions.
Good.
Okay, any discussion on this? Any questions?
If I may, I mean, I know this is
Yes.
a tough subject, and Jim, thank you for your intellectual capability to handle this and put in the work, so, thanks, Jim. That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I assume we're all aware of the fact that the county will no longer have input on residential subdivision approvals. And so this is the part of what we need to have for maybe establishing some guidelines and controls.
This will certainly, if adopted, it becomes a part of the application process that you need to develop one of these and have it approved by the Board of Supervisors prior to the submission of a subdivision application. We've discussed loosely, Mr. Smith and I, where the line in the sand could be drawn for, you know, how many subdivisions would warrant this kind of a study, because it would not be an inexpensive thing to attain. And we certainly don't want to, prevent regular folks from dividing off a piece of land or two for a family member or a friend. That's not the intention at all. The intention is, should we have a major developer purchase a piece of land, and want to pick the number you feel appropriate for adoption of policy. If you're going to do 4 or more subdivisions or 10 or more or whatever it is you want it, you want the line in the sand is, they have to develop these analyses so the county can make an informed decision and the public can be involved and we can get it in front of the people who, are stakeholders in the community.
And toward that end, in our discussions, we've proposed 3 exemptions, or 4 exemptions, actually. One, that family divisions will not be subject to the FIA. Home occupations will not be subject to an FIA. And home subdivisions of fewer than 15 housing units unless they have contiguous divisions. So if you had a 15 housing development that was done in 2 parts, 1-8 and 1-7, they would be subject to the provisions. So you couldn't game the system by splitting it into 2 divisions. And the 4th was subdivisions in agricultural land.
So that's basically where the line in the sand is right now.
15.
That's in the draft.
Okay.
And the 15 was chosen because that currently is our ordinance.
Okay.
That's the ordinance that would require central water and sewer. Division, or.
These are things that we don't see much of anyway.
No, it's because they take them down to a division or a subdivision of 8 and a subdivision of 7, so you don't have the subdivision of 15 that would require water and wastewater. That's what would kill us. If somebody would just come in and say, well, we're going to have a 40 housing development, and we'd have to come in with water and wastewater, who are you going to send the bill to?
Yeah, and again, I guess, does it go into more detail on the agricultural rezoning? Because I think that's what we talked about, that's the other, I don't want to say gatekeeper.
That was a placeholder.
That's the, okay. So the specifics on that's still going to be, okay.
Any other discussion on this? Kind of a first look at this,
Only to change. You're saying that Mr. Wright's in the works of doing some more stuff on this?
Yes.
Can we get that before, as it comes out, maybe?
Of course.
Instead of maybe while we're sitting here, we can, because this takes a little bit of review process,
It takes a lot of review.
I've really got to.
Yep. As we get drafts, I'm more than happy, and you are always free to call me, if you have time and are thinking about it, we can talk about where we're sitting.
I don't know what's coming out either.
I don't either until we get there.
Yeah, I'm just asking if we could.
Happy to communicate.
Okay, any further discussion, questions, comments? On the off chance, is there any public comment on this? Okay, thank you. All right, first workshop, we'll be looking at this more. Case number ZOA-05-25-03, ordinance amendment. Again, first workshop. The Board of Supervisors has directed the Planning Commission to consider removal, modification, or retention of Madison County zoning ordinance 5-2-1 and 5-1-1. Anything further there?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Of course, this comes as a result of Mr. Fuchs' application for a special use permit for livestock on an R1 zoned lot less than 2 acres. So this came to Preliminary Development Review Committee. I guess if I start at the beginning, we received a complaint about the neighbor having livestock on the property. The zoning office investigated. We issued a notice of violation. He has a path for compliance through a permit. So he applied, and when it came to preliminary development, it raised a lot of eyebrows because of the implications of having to spend $500 on a special use permit application to have some goats in your backyard. So based on the discussion that has ensued, the board found it appropriate to ask the Planning Commission to consider whether this is appropriate as is, if it should be modified, or if it should be struck, as you should discuss and recommend accordingly. You should know that there are two ordinances that would change should you choose to modify it, and they are highlighted on the screen. The one is the one that was cited, the 5-2-1, which establishes a special use permit for the small residential lots. The other is the 5-1-1, which provides that there is an exclusion for livestock. So both of those would change should you choose to make one. We have had, I received some public feedback from neighbors who were dissatisfied that the Planning Commission would be considering a change. I will forward you a copy of that tomorrow so you can read their letter and do with that what you will. But I will turn it back to all of you for discussion.
Okay. Any comments?
Do we have
questions?
a particular definition for this particular livestock?
We do.
I thought I saw that at one point in time, but I couldn't bring it back up. in
It's
this
Article 20. I'll have it in just a second.
While you're pulling that up, one of my thoughts would have been possibly, can we, or do we have any kind of another kind of a permit that if it meets this criteria, that they can come in and basically just see you as the zoning administrator, be like a building permit kind of a thing, and so that everybody is on the up and up and having an actual permit of some kind.
The question is, do you want to have the zoning office regulate this activity, or do you simply want the animal control officer to be responsible for the well-being of animals?
If I may add to that, the current matter, and we're going to be sharing with Planning Commission Board of Supervisors in the future. We've received some correspondence from a resident. It's R1 zoning, so that's where it hinges around now. By the law of the land, which we are enforcing those ordinances, or if there's a stay, which is what we're in right now. If there's any concern fixing or mending or doing nothing with the ordinance, then we go back and look at the application as currently tabled. But the understanding, would this disrupt any families that participate in 4-H or anything like that is why it's at your purview. But right now, because it's R1 zoning, that's the issue with the livestock as defined.
And that's why I was trying to refer this to maybe the 4-Hers could come in, so to say, and just get without going through a $500 and a 3-month process, they just come in and get a different kind of a permit that the county would issue.
Yeah, right now
Just trying to avoid all that.
Yes, sir. Right now, we're governed by activity that's allowed either by right or by special use permit. So right now, we don't have that provision because it's either or. So it's R1.
I was just asking if we could consider
You
something like
surely yes, sir.
I know we don't have that now. I was asking,
Yes, sir.
Could we consider something?
I think
Just
that's
one
definitely,
option, just
that's
one
definitely
option.
within
And
your
what cost?
purview.
As to, $15.
$15 is not gonna cover the guy that's gotta sit there behind the desk to do it.
30. I don't know. I mean, I'm just trying to come
Now
up.
you're making the kid mad.
All right, we could
It's a
approach.
gray area.
Yeah, we can approach it from the other direction. Number of animals that we're talking about.
Well, that's my next.
Yeah,
point.
yeah, the livestock.
Putting a limit on 2 acres.
Yeah.
For example, if you said you had a horse, for example, and horses are, I believe, I can't read it from here, but I believe horses were okay, but draft horses are not. But regardless of which way you want to look at that, if you said you had, putting a number on it would be, if you had 1 acre, 1 horse would be allowed, because that's basically the specs that horses could be. And I looked up the thing for goats, and goats are under 1 acre or at an acre would be about 4 to 6 goats, you know, so I think there should be a number for that as well.
Yeah, and fowl and poultry.
Correct.
Poultry is livestock.
Yeah,
Fowl is not, so
Well, let
you
me-
can have 75 peacocks giving you the love cry of the peacock every morning, and you're within the zoning ordinance.
So let me ask you a question. You wanna have 2 dogs as your pet. Why can't I have a goat and a potbelly pig as my pet?
livestock is apparently defined, that's where we're at too,
Yeah.
right?
I feel the need to
I'm allowed
ask,
to
do
have a
you?
pet just like you are.
Well, I hear you. It doesn't say pets, it says livestock. So
Yeah.
now we have to, and the livestock is defined. I also looked up another number, I got it from Brian, that there are about 1,197 R1 parcels in the county. So there's another number for you, just under 1,200 that this could affect. Under 2 acres.
Under 2 acres.
R1, under 2 acres.
That isn't subdivided.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry to interrupt your meeting, and certainly it's your purview on who you choose to recognize. As you've gone through any workshop items you offer public comment, I just want to make you aware there may be public present who wishes to provide comment if you so choose to allow that during that period for this particular ordinance amendment consideration.
Yeah, our previous ordinance amendment didn't get any public comment, but we'll try. Okay. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
maybe Mr. Nichols is to you, and I hate doing this, but I do it a lot, so maybe I don't hate it. Other counties, what do they do in similar positions that works and doesn't work?
I don't know, but say every time we talk about other counties, but say we hear the rebuttal that we are unique and we
I
do
know.
it our way,
I know.
so.
But if it's working, then I don't mind. There's our public comment.
What was the zoning district?
Residential. It was a neighbors complaint about the smell and other issues.
Yeah,
It was
the,
quite a mess.
So if we were gonna make an amendment to this, maybe we say R1 as it is, under 2 acres would be, we'd have that limit of animals, livestock. And leave the rest of it alone.
yeah, I think.
That could
the-
be some written verbiage that we could put in there.
Yeah, the intent of this clearly was to prevent that kind of a situation.
two-acre getting out of hand.
Overuse of minimal land area, yeah.
If I may, though, I think with Mr. Fuchs' thing is he had 2, but one was pregnant, she's gonna have 4. So what, then we get into, okay, what happens with babies? I mean,
So,
okay,
are rabbits considered livestock too?
yeah.
Well, as defined, I would say no, rabbits are not considered
And see,
livestock.
this is a quagmire because horses, for example, if you can make a living with them, they might be considered livestock. But all my horses were always pets because you couldn't make a living with them. So, you know, it's not I couldn't get, for that portion of the land, I couldn't get the land use taxation because horses don't count unless you're selling them. And, you know, this guy's not selling his goats.
Oh, yes, he is.
Okay, well, we'll get comment from, okay. I'm glad we'll get some comment. Okay. Any other discussion? Can we consider the idea perhaps of setting some kind of small number that say, you know, if a 4-H kid wants to have 1 calf, that's entirely different from a small dairy herd. Have to have 8 acres.
Okay.
Well, that's.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, and I
Mr.
think
Chairman?
that's exactly where our original question was coming from. This is not fair for that kind of situation, yeah.
Orange County used VDACs. Apparently they have like guidelines for how many acres you should have per an animal, and they actually came up with a number that would have worked for the man, but it ultimately just fell apart. It didn't work.
Yeah.
But, I think.
That's what I was looking for,
Yeah,
was one of
there's-
those, yeah. I actually Googled that.
Yeah, there are best practices
Yeah.
for
Mhm.
small.
That's where I came up with the 1 horse per, and that, the numbers that I did come up
Yeah.
with.
I would, Mr. Chairman, I'd say the other thing I found, but I think Pete would probably bludgeon me to death, so I don't know if I'll do it. Some municipalities in Texas have a public space where either 4-H or the school or somebody provides spacing for instances where somebody's in a situation where residential 1 or 2 acre, and there's a public space where they can raise their livestock. So that was, that's the only other thing that because I like you, I looked at, because I knew this was going to be tricky. That's the only other thing I saw from any other municipality that was sponsored by the government, so.
That's funny you mentioned that. I don't think we need to go too deep on all this. I think we've already gone way deeper than we needed to maybe, but I think it can be pretty simple, and honestly, you're just not gonna be able to include everybody. But, you know, like, I don't think a half-acre residential lot or an acre residential lot, or however it's broken down, apartments, townhouses, you know, whatever's to come. I don't think everybody has to be accommodated, but I've always known plenty of kids where they know the guy right down the road, and he's like, yeah, I got this old barn, you know, like, use this or whatever. Like, there's options for kids. And then maybe there's not if you live on an acre, you know? Or maybe one gets 2 and the brother doesn't, or whatever, but I think something pretty simple. I like the VDAC, like whatever, as far as like animal welfare recommendations, but again, we're talking residential, you know, R1 zone parcels, which are not, which could be looked at differently as well.
Yeah, less than 2 acres, if you're keeping any kind of, even one animal in a house, that's,
Except chickens.
yeah, yeah.
You have a chicken coop.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're all over the county like that. They're the little 6 chicken coop that you can buy
And they're in
at Tractor
violation.
Supply. Yeah.
And if you start talking about chicken coops, is there gonna be a setback?
There you go.
A sideline setback, I'm not
Yeah.
joking with that, you know, I mean, if you're under 2 acres,
No, they just park them out in the yard beside the house, yeah. I think we're probably getting close, yeah. Do we have any other, any other discussion? Yes, ma'am, it has. All right, any public comment, if you would identify yourself?
And I, by the way, I thoroughly agree with some kind of special thing for the farm projects. I get that. There should be something, but ask your neighbors first.
Mhm.
Anyway.
Your name, please?
Sorry?
Your name, so we,
Yes, my name is Elaine Jenkins.
okay.
And I live at 3612 Wolftown Hood Road. Mr. Fuchs is my next door neighbor. I wrote this email to Ms. Richards, but the board. I'm writing to state my opposition to a special use permit by Gerald Fuchs residing at 3620 Wolftown Hood Road, tax map number 46-54B, that was submitted for 14/25 and tabled by the applicant at the joint meeting held on June 4th of '25. According to Mr. Nichols of the Planning Commission office, Mr. Fuchs has the approval of his office to keep the livestock, chickens and goats, on his property until the special use permit meeting in November of this year. He currently has 8 goats that I counted this morning. He had more than that. He sold 2 last week. He also has rabbits. No problem with that. My husband and I, along with several of our neighbors, vehemently oppose this permission granted to Mr. Fuchs. We were never notified or contacted about his intentions, and if this is permitted, we would be subjected to the smells, increased flies, and vermin that having a goat lot in a residential neighborhood would bring through a long, hot summer. Currently, Mr. Fuchs has 8 goats and several chickens, a large goat lot, 1/4 of an acre, fenced, pens and runs on a 1.19 acre property. His special use permit states it is for a few goats for family pets, okay? I don't know about you, but I do not eat my pets. Mr. Fuchs does. he eats goats and rabbits. And that's fine if you want to do that. I fail to see how that applies to the situation that he has now, that he's allowed to keep these animals through the summer. I would request that the board deny him the right to keep these animals until his petition is voted on in November, because frankly, they will be in the freezer by then. The adjoining parties and the properties are notified. I believe that is the fair thing to do for the majority of the community in Wolftown. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Speaker, may I ask the speaker a question?
If you're willing.
Do you mind if I ask you a question?
Go right ahead.
So, being you're living next door to this,
Yes.
what would be, in your opinion, an allowable amount of these animals? Just your opinion. 0 to, obviously not 8.
As for a pet,
Well, for whatever's going on next door. Apparently, it's not pets, he's selling them, he's eating them, whatever.
yeah, and that's nasty. Last year he had a cow in a 12 by 12.
So I'm just asking
I
your
know.
opinion on, what do you think, 1 would be more appropriate for something like
Yes,
this,
1.
or 2?
Perhaps
or-
2, all right?
Okay.
And as far as FHA projects are concerned, I would like to say that as a substitute teacher in the county, I do the ag class quite often. I think those projects are very valuable. And the kids that are interested in those should be allowed a pet or one animal to enter into those contests, okay? I believe in that, but rightly so, and I said this to Mr. Nichols, most of the time, those kids have a neighbor or someone that they know that will let them raise that animal that they're interested in, or they live on farms, let's face it, a lot of farm kids here. And it's great, I love that. But when you move in here and you specifically state, like you did earlier this year, well, I'm gonna clear all this property and I'm gonna raise 20, 30 goats and a couple cows. And we clearly told him that's not allowed. You're in a neighborhood, a residential neighborhood. That is not allowed here. My husband and I have been here for over 20 years.
I was born.
He was born here. I was not, obviously. But it's like, we've worked very hard to keep this property that we have. We have more than Mr. Fuchs, but we work very hard to keep it nice and to keep trees and things like this and flowers. And I work with the master gardeners. I'm rep here for Madison. And so, you know, that's what residential says to me, okay? If you go by our property, which you're welcome to do, you're gonna see all kinds of trees and flowers and everything out front. Come on over, have some coffee, we'll talk about it. But his property is not like that. And sadly, I think this gentleman has moved here from Culpeper just to open another junkyard, like the illegal one that he lives next to, that we have been trying to get rid of. So, when, I'm a little hot about this, I think you can tell, right? But, I mean, this is not what neighborhoods are supposed to be like. If you move there to have a neighborhood, now, you wanna have 6 chickens in your backyard, I don't have a problem with that. This man had like 40, okay? He was raising and breeding chickens. That's different. You wanna do all that, then move to a farm or move to agricultural property, not my next neighbor.
I think Jim knows a little bit about the history on this one, where it's coming from. This man is currently right now under prosecution by the Commonwealth of Virginia for grand larceny. He stepped over on us, cut 3 big pine trees, put them in a pile and burned them.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. If we're going to have
Yes,
public
sir.
comment, would he identify himself for the record, please?
Yes.
But
Walter Jenkins.
That's what you're dealing with here.
Well, point is, he did it so he could have a goat lot.
Yeah. All one
just not the place for a goat lot.
116. We want the one over cut other people's trees.
But
and all.
that's beside it.
I know.
All right.
There's a lot too. But, you know, yes, you folks are gonna have to decide sooner or later, I guess, what is proper in a residential neighborhood. And first of all, I would certainly suggest, go to every neighbor that your property touches or comes in contact with. Go around your neighborhood, okay? It's called a survey. And get permission or approval or not from your neighbors. That's a simple thought, isn't it, and a place to start? If you want to make an ordinance on this. The ordinance right now, my beef is, the ordinance right now is you can't have any of these, okay? Now, because he tabled this permit that he applied for, this is gonna go on until November, when the permit comes up for review, because he tabled it. So, that says to me, there was premeditation here in him even putting in a permit, submitting a permit. And he didn't even fill it out. So he had no thought that he was going to even go through with this, because he knew the neighbors would object. So, that's my planning on it. You're welcome to have my email. I'm sorry, it didn't type very well, but.
That's okay.
Leave Mr. Nichols.
If he has it, we'll have access to it.
I will send all of them a copy.
Sorry?
I will send all of them a copy.
Thank you so much. And I'm sorry that, you know, it's not typed very well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for answering my question.
All right, any further discussion on this potential ordinance? All right. Future information coming up, Alan, if you want to run through that quickly. I think we,
With pleasure.
yeah.
So a couple things coming up here. We've got Polly of the Blue Ridge, which was our opening case tonight. They'll come up for second workshop, and I'm hoping to have more direction from the health department by then. We will get the second workshop next month for Madison Hills events, and so we're looking forward to that. Both ordinance amendments that we just talked about, we will receive updates, and as Mr. Snyder requested, as we get potential changes for those, we'll go ahead and forward those to everybody for your review. Currently, we have 3 applications that are tabled. Mr. Esch, with his zoning text amendment for R3, has tabled that while he is preparing the documents that we requested of him, the illustrations of the before and after for maximum development with his proposed changes. Mr. Lipscomb, I followed up with him for the For Life Journey Farm. He is still working on resolving his health department violations, and so we encouraged him to fix those before he came forward. He chose to table his application. I think that the latest that the board can do action on that one is November, so it'll come up, I suspect, no later than September. And then Mr. Fuchs has his application tabled as well, which we were just discussing. That should come before the Planning Commission no later than September. That's all that I have for you at this time.
Quick question. Did we get any further information or clarification from Mr. Esch?
I don't have anything yet.
Yes.
When I spoke to him last, he said that he would be coming in with the information at the last minute, and it would not give us time to publish it for folks to look at in advance. So after that conversation, he chose to table the application so everyone could take the appropriate time to review. I don't think he's in a hurry,
Right.
and I don't think we are either for that particular case, and so we want to do it right.
Good. Okay, thank you. Okay, any other items from the Planning Commission or the public? Any public comments in general? If not, can I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. I appreciate your patience there. You sound like me trying to get up. What's that?
Oh, I don't know, but say Aaron got it for me, so I don't know.